welcome. On this program, we discuss the issues that are of concern to you, the Ghanaian people, and the most topical issues, key issues of the week, with well-informed panelists in the interest of the Ghanaian people. We're also live on 3FM 92.7. Now, the Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, is in a celebratory mood. That's because he says the economy has turned the corner. He repeated this statement when he presented what he termed the Nkuni budget on Wednesday, a budget of victory, promising something unprecedented, that by the end of the year 2024, Ghana's GDP, in his words, will be 1 trillion Ghana cedis. Take a look.
Total revenue and grants is projected at 176.4 billion Ghana cedis, 16.8% of GDP, as we move towards our 18% target. And this is underpinned by permanent revenue measures, largely tax revenue measures, amounting to 0.9% of GDP. Mr. Speaker, total expenditure is projected at 226.7 billion, 21.6% of GDP. This projection reflects a reduction of 6.1 percentage points of GDP in total expenditure commitment basis compared to the outturn in 2022. This large decrease comes from the combination of fiscal consolidation efforts of 4.9 percentage points of GDP, reflecting an adjustment in revenue by 1.1 percentage point and primary expenditure by 3.9 percentage points of GDP. The potential interest rate savings from the ongoing external debt operation will further bolster public finance sustainability. Mr. Speaker, based on the estimates for total revenue and grants and total expenditure, including arrears clearance, the overall budget balance to be financed in a fiscal deficit of 61.9 billion, equivalent to 5.9% of GDP. The corresponding primary balance is a deficit of 5.9 billion, equivalent to 0.6% of GDP.
Well, that particular claim has been contested by a few. There were expectations on how feasible this would be, and in fact, the critics have rather asked the finance minister to focus on the gross national income. Well, we have lined up the experts who would dissect the subject, plus also engaging the various stakeholders who had expectations of this budget and how much of an impact this will make. One economic activity that will no doubt contribute to the attainment of this 1 trillion Ghana cedis GDP is the mining sector, as outlined by the finance minister. But if the extraction of natural resources threatens sustainable development, then there's a cause for concern. That's why some civil society groups do not want to sit unconcerned. Now, they are demanding the repeal of the law that allows mining in forest reserves. Their request comes after this application to mine in the Kakum National Park, which was denied indeed by the Minerals Commission. But the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources has been speaking to me on this matter, which is going to be a major part of our conversation today. Take a look.
It's not correct because an LI is subsidiary legislation and therefore is subservient to an Act of Parliament. And the Act of Parliament which regulates mining, i.e. Act 703, which is the Minerals and Mining Act 206, Act 703, and the enabling law for the Forestry Commission, the enabling law for the Environmental Protection Agency, will not and cannot allow indiscriminate mining in forest reserves and will take precedence over an LI. But having said that, I mean, it's also important for us to face some of the realities of our legal regime when it comes to mining. It is not, mining in forest reserve is not prescribed by law. I mean, I'm not saying it, that's what the law says. Mining is permitted in forest reserve, but under strict conditions and strict environmental protocols.
Is this call by the CSOs indeed justified? We'll be joined by a number of them here on Key Point. And these shall be our key issues for this morning's conversation. And I want to hear from you as well. Your personal economy, has it turned the corner? And also the specific interventions in this budget. We'll be finding out how that would impact on our own cost of living as a people and improve our standard of living. That's the approach we are taking this conversation with. I am Alfred Ocansey. Welcome to Key Point. When I return, I'll introduce my guests and we will start the conversation this morning. Stay with us. We'll be back shortly.
Melcom Black Friday is back, now bigger and better. From 3rd November to 3rd December, just enjoy flaming hot Black Friday unbeatable deals in all Melcom stores nationwide and online. It's time to shop like never before. Melcom Black Friday is back and now live. Terms and conditions apply. Melcom, where Ghana shops.
Dancing at 10 has been reloaded though.
Oh yeah, I know Dada.
Then the vibe is so vibing.
Yes, everyone needs to experience the vibe. And at Dancing at 10 Reloaded is definitely what you need this December. This time, we are sustaining the vibes in Qatar, Nairobi, Zanzibar, Singapore, Cyprus, Turkey, Philippines. From 20th November at a rate starting from $1,990 per person and $3,950 for a couple. Your flight, accommodation, breakfast and tours are all sorted. It's a Dancing at 10 Reloaded. Simply call 0595 500 817 or 0556 310 404 to book now. At Dancing Travels, fuel life's beauty.
We watch the Premier League on Super Sport like we are in a stadium.
That was not an offside. Rashford was in an offside position, but he wasn't interfering with play. And Bruno scored.
This Christmas, dear, entertainment galore on DSTV. The content just go over you. Dial *759# to reconnect or stay connected now.
Life can get hectic. And sometimes we forget to prioritize our well-being. That's where Vano Mineral Water steps in. A refreshing solution packed with essential minerals, Vano Mineral Water keeps you hydrated and balanced. Whether you're at home or work, Vano Mineral Water is there to keep you going. Don't let a busy schedule hinder your health. Make Vano Mineral Water a part of your daily routine. Share the love with Vano Mineral Water, the choice for a healthy, vibrant you.
This advert is FDA approved.
Dive into the unseen realities of the Akonsombo and Bong Dam spillage impact. Pregnant women embark on long boat journeys for antenatal care.
This woman here is heavily pregnant. It is raining heavily as I am talking to you, and we have a long journey ahead of us.
While the spillage engulfs hospitals, public toilets, mortuaries and cemeteries, the Ghana Health Service warns against contaminated water, yet children find joy in the face of adversity.
Residents, including children as young as 5 years, rely on this dam despite it being polluted.
We have diarrhea-related diseases that come in, cholera that come in, and all of that.
Experience the highs and the lows of communities struggling to rebuild after the floods.
Before I get out from the room, I've seen that all my buildings have collapsed, and when I turn back, I've seen that they are in the water.
Don't miss this gripping narrative of strength, resilience, and the untold stories of those affected. Join the award-winning documentary maker, Godwin Asediba, as he uncovers the challenges faced by these residents after the dam spillage. Ripples of Resilience airs on November 22, 2023 on TV3 at 9 p.m. and across our social media platforms.
Do you want to be a star?
1, 2, 3, okay.
It's another freestyle night on the Mentor Season 12 show. As the competition gets intense by the day, our remaining contestants will keep you relaxed by churning out tunes within their comfort zones mixed with great stage performances this Sunday. And yes, it's another Eviction Sunday.
Our star performer for tonight's a safe match.
So get busy. Vote now to keep your favorite contestant in the competition.
Unfortunately, Zara and Seti leave the contest.
And to win the ultimate mouth-watering prize package of over 150k worth of goodies and cash. Catch the live show every Sunday at 8 p.m. on TV3. Mentor Season 12. The world awaits you.
The Mentor Vibe. Mentor is brought to you by Heaven Black Insecticide Spray and Mosquito Coil and Napa Foods Sense Body Spray.
Bell Ice, Vitamilk, Dragnet, Pepsodent Charcoal and Lemon Infused Formula and Pepsodent Natural Herbal Formula. Darling Lemon Drink. Frutelli Calipo.
Imagine growing up with very strict parents, studying English, sociology, archaeology, and even studying law because your daddy said so. If I ask you to describe yourself in probably 3-4 sentences, what would you say about yourself?
Disciplined, resilient, and tough.
But at the end of the day, she is one of the very successful food business owners here in Ghana.
So for every food business owner or for anybody that's looking to start a business, first of all, you need to identify exactly which food business you want to run.
Mame Sawa Duku, the CEO of Chop Shop, is our guest here on Today's Woman for this week. It's on Saturday, 3 p.m. exactly. Don't be late, make a date with me, Cookie T, on Today's Woman.
Today's Woman with Cookie T shows Saturdays at 3 p.m. on TV3. Brought to you by Latex Foam, Vlisco.
Sliding strong, wow. Turn around and stick it up, wow.
Ghana's most photogenic, premiering Saturday 18th November at 8 p.m. on TV3.
Brought to you by Pepsodent Charcoal and Lemon Infused Formula and Pepsodent Natural Herbal Formula.
Game Park.
Duffy's Health and Beauty.
Discover the Arabian charm and the Emirates this end of year aboard the magnificent MSC Virtusa cruise ship. We invite you, your family and friends to join us on a journey of discovery to Qatar, Bahrain, Abu Dhabi, Dubai and Sarbania's Island from the 22nd of December to the 1st of January 2024. This all-inclusive package includes a 7-night cruise with breakfast, lunch and dinner, entertainment on board, 2-night post-cruise hotel accommodation in Dubai, all grounds, transfers and travel insurance, all visas and return flights. Call us now on 0308-251-055 to book this amazing offer starting from $3,990 per person sharing an inside cabin. Life is better at sea. Experience it.
It's time to pause from the tight schedules and the deadlines, escape the traffic after work, and let down our hair and unwind. It's a 3FM Corporate Connect. Join us on the 24th of November for the biggest outdoor corporate hangout to de-stress, unwind, and network. Come mingle with CEOs, top business execs, entrepreneurs, and like-minded people at the most exciting corporate networking event in Accra, the 3FM Corporate Connect, powered by Origin. With fun corporate games, tasty grills over chilled, refreshing drinks, live band action, and non-stop jam by seasoned DJs, amongst many others. Join us for the 3FM Corporate Connect happening on Friday, the 24th of November at the Akikiko Leisure Center. For more inquiries and sponsorship, please call 0532 200 927. All roads lead to the Akikiko Leisure Center afterward on the 24th of November for the 3FM Corporate Connect. Party starts at 5 p.m. sharp. 3FM Corporate Connect, unwind and network, powered by 3FM 92.7 and supported by TV3 and sponsored by Origin.
All right, welcome back to Key Point here on TV3. We're live on TV3 Ghana on Facebook and also on 3FM 92.7. We're live on Kesmi 107.1 in Tamale as well and W93.5 in Wa. Now, the Finance Minister on Wednesday presented the Inkunim, meaning the victory budget. Questions have been raised about exactly what that budget, that kind of victory that the budget seeks to achieve. But would have government officials or people associated with this government come explain to us exactly what the victory that this budget is expected to achieve, really, in 2024, being an election year, and this is the first full-blown budget after the IMF approved our $3 billion deal. But for you as well, despite the finance minister being welcomed with all the pomp and pageantry by the staff of the finance ministry, which also generated some conversation that these people being civil servants and being drawn into this kind of situation. The question is, how is this going to impact on our personal economy? My guests joining me in studio, Martin Pebble is private legal practitioner. He is a leader of one of 3 individual bondholder groups, and then also the leader of the convener of the Komepreko Reloaded demonstration. Lawyer Martin Pebble, good morning, welcome.
Good morning, Mr. Ocansey.
Yes, the way you have gone to the corner there, just asking if your economy has turned the corner.
Say that again, oh. Say that again. It's crazy. Eh? We are still feeling the harsh realities of Uforiata's crass incompetence. Eh?
You are at the corner.
Yeah.
So, but let me also welcome Alfred Thompson, who is an economist and a financial analyst, also a member of the New Patriotic Party. Mr. Alfred Thompson, good morning.
Good morning, Alfred. Alfred, how are you?
Good.
It's been long.
Indeed. Let me put on record as well.
You saw the budget and you're enjoying it. It's a real changer, game changer.
It's a game changer?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
For the next year, you will see the difference.
Right.
That's why it's called Inkunim.
That's why it's called Inkunim. Okay, so we will get into that.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Alfred Thompson was a former deputy managing director?
Yeah.
Deputy managing director of the National Investment Bank, which was also captured in this budget to receive some liquidity support so that it will survive after the heavy impact of the DDEP and so many other things, which led to the banks.
Some of them dating from Mr. Thompson's time.
Do you know when I went there?
It's like Kufuor's time. Some of them date from your time.
I see. We will be joined as well by Professor Godfrey Bobkin, who is a finance professor at the University of Ghana Business School. He's going to be joining us via Zoom. John Abdullahi Jinapo is a member of parliament for the Yape Soil constituency. He is a member of a number of committees, including the committee that has interest in this budget as well. So he will be joining us in a bit. But as we go on, I'm going to be displaying to you a number of the things that the finance minister has said. The specifics concerning the growth rate says even more significant. There's going to be a crossing of 1 trillion Ghana cedis. We'll understand what all of this means, because there's a lot of capital that has been placed on this statement by the finance minister. Some have contested it, that this is not the first time in our economic history where our GDP is hitting 1 trillion. In fact, if you check 2005, in the old CD terms, we actually had the economy crossing this 1 trillion. If, the likes of Bright Simmons have tweeted to the extent that we had about 97 trillion old CDs. GDP as far back as 2005. So we will get into all of that. But this is one of the statements that the finance minister made, plus the reliefs that were announced and so on. Generally, let me start off with you, very briefly, Mr. Lawyer Martin Pebu, whether this particular budget and the details that you heard really has helped you in any way, and has your personal economy turned the corner, you personally?
Yeah, Mr. Ocansey, simple answer, absolutely no.
Why?
It's a disappointment, right? Just before we go into the major ones, one of the two highlights that Oforiatta is now waking up to the turning the Gadgisburg economy, right? He says they are now going to support our poultry producers to produce a certain metric tons of poultry. I was like, so why is Mr. Oforiatta coming to say this thing in the last year? This was the very basis on which Akufo-Addo and Bawumia were brought into office. You see, that refrain, 18 months, I'll change the economy. 18 months, I'll change the economy from Gadgisburg, to say that we'll stop the huge importations of rice, oil, etc. Then in this budget, it's now that you're saying that you will revamp the poultry industry. So it just tells you, like I've always been quoting Plato telling you that politicians, there is no honest one. They are all not honest. Come on. I mean, something that we said come and do. In the 8th year, you are still promising that you are now going to do. So it tells you that he's lost the plot. That's number one. Then number two, let's come to the ordinary economics, street economics. Look, after the budget was read, I heard people saying that, but for them, the price of fuel is not going to change. So once they are still going to pay the same for fuel, then it means that nothing is changed. Look, and that is very deep. Let's look at it. You see, sometimes lay people say certain things. If you are not careful, because they don't have PhDs and etc. in economics, you say, oh, they don't know anything. But look at it. It's very deep. What they're saying is that, listen, at the end of the budget, did you hear that the price of fuel will come down? If you didn't hear so, then it means their personal economy
those were the days of the late Kwesi Boche that,
yes,
after the budget is read, prices of certain items respond immediately. Times have changed.
Excellent. And the meaning,
evolution of time.
Yes, and the meaning of it is that you didn't take off taxes from petroleum, the petroleum products. I know in the price build-up, over 40% is due to taxes. So if in your budget you couldn't take off any taxes, that will make sure that the price of petrol will come down, fuel. I know when fuel comes down, it affects a lot of sectors of the economy, transport, food, etc., health, everywhere. So if you couldn't take off taxes from the fuel to bring down the prices so that times will improve, then for them, all this is basically not relevant to them. Of course, these are contracts that they will distribute to a few party faithfuls. A few party faithful, because I've met countless number of MPP supporters who are crying because they were never given contracts as promised. So the budget, yes, they say we'll spend what? Projected to spend 226 billion. 226 point something. Maybe we should round up to say 227 billion, right?
Yes.
But the ordinary man say, how much is in it for me? It's going to big party people who will come and take sole source contracts, etc., right? So to that extent, the budget doesn't mean much to us. As long as you continue to buy cocoa for 3 cedis, kenke for 5 cedis, fish for 10 cedis, right? Etc., yam, all that, rice, all those things. It doesn't mean much. It doesn't mean much, right? Then let's go to one of my favorite topics, the matter of the asset declaration law. And you know, that asset declaration...
Before we even get there, but you're expecting, like many others, including the business community, that some taxes should have been removed or reduced.
Yes.
Which have not
yes,
been
I heard
mentioned.
Guta. Yeah, Joseph Obi and Co. Then it's Awuni and etc. Yes, indeed. All of them. It's clear because, look, Mr. Ocansey, let's repeat, maybe in case you've forgotten. Because that other part of it is that, when I say other part of it is that this administration came on the back of what? Moving from taxation to
production.
Taxation to
production.
So if you come and the budget is full of a raft of taxes, ratcheting up taxes. Taxes are front and center of your budget. Taxes, the very things you derided and chided the previous administration for, which we all agreed and so thought that you're the economic wastegate, Baumia. If your budget is full of taxes, taxes occupy front and center of your budget, then did we go or did we come? Did we go or did we come? So that is it. That is it. So that's why I said the lay people, when they say for them to the extent that they didn't hear prices of fuel come down, this budget is useless, they have a solid point because they are talking about the fundamentals of the economy. The fundamentals of the economy. Then you hear, how many minutes more do I have?
5.
5, okay. Then you hear Ofuriata saying that exchange rate has stabilized. Which paragraph is that? Then I'm like, yes. Is he serious?
That's...
Why has it stabilized? Stabilized because we are not paying our external debt. So when you give half-truths, it's disheartening. I'm like, so does this man think we're going to read? Why has it stabilized? Because you are not paying your external debt. Are we not still engaged in negotiations with the external creditors? So we have relative stability because we've not been paying from last year about this time to date. We've not been paying. So this stability is artificial, extremely artificial. So that part of the budget, like I said, when I read it, I was like, this is not good. It's as if we just don't know anything, and that's what we call gaslighting. It's like his reality is different from ours. Because I expected that he would at least put in another sentence to say that, okay, well, this might change when we start paying our external debts. And that's a serious component because you look at the revenues and etc. and you say that we are going to spend over 50%, right? Trying to pay debts. Yeah, when you read some of the highlights.
So, in fact, for the expenditure items, we're looking at, based on the details of this budget, employee compensation, that's wages and salaries for public sector workers, interest payment on loans. Those two components are going to take about 119 billion out of the projected 226.7 billion expenditure that we intend to incur in the fiscal year 2024. 119 billion out of the 226 billion is going to be on just interest payment on loans plus employee compensation.
Excellent.
In fact, over 50% of the expenditure for the year 2024 is going to be on these two expenditure line items. So that's what you have there.
Yes. So that is it. So when you haven't addressed these imbalances, so to speak, all right, within the system, and then you just go quoting numbers out of context, just like he quoted the matter of inflation in the US and the UK out of context. For people who for decades, their inflations have always been below 10%, I wonder what use it is, right? Yes, that in the US, inflation is gone up as a result of COVID. So it's as if he's always looking for every opportunity to blame everything on COVID. Meanwhile, the IMF letter, you remember a few weeks ago, we showed it. He himself admitted that even before COVID, he had already run the economy down. You remember a few weeks ago, we referred to it. He himself, under his hand, he admits that even before COVID, his incompetence had already led the economy into a ditch. The IMF report of 2019-2020, IMF World Bank, we're already dead distressed. So when you find him here, still trying to say, oh, global economy and all that, I'm like, so when will Oforiatta accept responsibility? Of course, he's doing it on behalf of Kufuor. Yes, by the Constitution, it's the president who has that mandate because he is the one we've given. So you see that in paragraph 1, he says, Right Honorable Speaker,
yes.
Honorable Members of Parliament, on the authority of His Excellency the President, blah, 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 and that pursuant to Article 179 of the Constitution, blah, blah, and then Section 221, subsection 3 of the Public Financial Management Act, blah, blah, blah. So he's doing it on behalf of Akufo-Addo, so all of them band together. So I'm like, when are they going to own up and just accept that, listen, they ran this economy down, and don't forget also even the Bank of Ghana statement on the back of the writing of the 60 billion Ghana cedis that caused the trouble. They said it, that look, the expansionary projects, right, expansionary system we ran in 2021, it's largely to, what do you call, blame for our current economic woes. Yes. And when that was happening, Mr. Jinapua and co are here, Professor Bobkin and co, they made a lot of noise. They cautioned government, hey, this overborrowing will lead us to trouble. This overborrowing will lead us into trouble. And government didn't listen. And now you come in and you're trying to hang everything on the neck of court.
Touch briefly on the asset declaration, briefly, because we'll come back to it. And
yes.
Then,
paragraph 184. Oh, that they are working on the bill. Mr. Ocansey, yes. This working on the bill, I'm wondering what is it rocket science? You remember earlier on in September, the president appeared before or attended the annual bar conference, that's the annual gathering of the lawyers, and then he promised that he was going to give us world-class asset declaration law. Yes. Those were the president's words. He was going to give a world-class asset declaration law. But in this paragraph 184, Oforiatta mentions only the issue of verification. And I'm like, what are we doing with verification? That when you declare the assets, the officers will go and verify. Verification, yes, is a step forward. But the main thing coming to the table to deal with this matter is about publication. So listen to 184. This is what he says. Mr. Speaker, the new Conduct of Public Officers Act seeks to address current weaknesses in the asset declaration system. The new act will introduce provisions that ensure public officers submit their declaration in time and that an effective verification system is in place. The draft bill is under consideration by Cabinet and will be submitted to Parliament subsequently. His clutching at the less important one. The kernel of the matter, the heart of this matter is that after the declaration, we want publication of the assets so that this will help the rampant stealing. You heard Kennedy Japan, that he is stealing the money and taking it abroad. Did I say so? It's not Kennedy Japan. He is with them. He is with them, right? They say when this denture, what's the proverb? Crocodile, the water, that proverb. He is with them, so he comes out to tell you that, hey, this is the state of affairs. What do you think? He says they are stashing the money abroad, stealing and stashing it abroad. So you see that this is the kernel of the matter. Mr. Ocansey, let's get this clear. All these budget figures, these huge things, remember, we are leaking seriously. So if you don't have an asset declaration law, that will make sure that everything that President Akufo-Addo owns will be made clear. Everything Bawumia owns will be made public. Everything Oforiatta owns. And of course, you know, we are crying that he's used his company to amass so much wealth, or most of the loans. When we borrow this, what do you call, Euro bonds and the rest, Data Bank makes a cut, right, for their services, which Akufo-Addo himself said he would not allow to happen in opposition. He said no friends and family business, right? And yet this is what Data Bank is involved in, that we borrow and they make money. We borrow, they make money.
Okay.
So if you don't tackle that matter, that whatever they own, we will make public. Sorry, and let's not forget, let me make the last quote, come from Plato. That's why, look, 5 centuries BC, right? BC, even before Christ, when Plato was born and etc., he wrote the books with, with the ideas of Socrates. He said that, look, for these leaders, one of the ways to avoid bribery and corruption is that they should own nothing in their own names. Your leaders should own nothing. The state should take care of them. Own nothing, no. So if we don't tackle this issue of making sure that your leaders don't own anything, sorry, this corruption thing will continue to have huge figures in the budget, and it will go to a few. So that now we have an oligarchy, like in Russia, a few making it, and most of our citizens gnashing. So let's look at it. What do we do about our leaders owning so much property? Isn't it about time we went back to Plato's Republic and then use those ideas? And listen,
right,
philosopher king, you want to be leader, we'll put you on a certain trajectory, you own nothing.
The emphasis for you is a publication of it, of this as a declaration of leaders. You were making reference to what Kennedy Japan has said previously.
Yes.
Quoting him about this stealing going on and so on.
Stolen,
you and I don't know that, but then again, he said it.
Yes, he's with them. So, he said they've stolen and stashed the money abroad. They are stashing the money abroad.
John Abdullahi Jenapo is the member of parliament for Yape Koso constituency in the Savannah region, and he's a member of the Finance Committee of Parliament and the ranking member on the Mines and Energy Committee of Parliament. Honorable John Jenapo, good morning, welcome.
Thank you, thank you.
Okay.
So today you're giving me all my... Thank you.
Also joining us on Zoom, Professor Godfrey Bopkin is Professor of Finance at the University of Ghana. Professor Godfrey Bopkin, good morning, welcome.
Yes, good morning, and good morning to my co-panelists. Good morning to our cherished listeners and viewers.
Great. Now, Mr. Thompson, so why this budget, christened Nkunim budget, is the question on the minds of the many people who were expecting a number of things, including, especially for the business community, a reduction and removal of certain taxes so as to reduce the cost of doing business in order to have that trickle-down effect. Because if the cost of doing business goes down, the cost of production goes down, and then the cost of the goods and services that they produce also goes down, and then the entire cost of living will also go down, because they are not for the Christmas, they are passing it on to us in many ways. The Ghanaian people, beyond the business community, we're also expecting certain specific interventions. So what kind of victory does this budget present for you in government?
Yes, good morning once again to John, to yourself, Alfred, and to all those watching us. The good thing about this budget means named Nkunim, that is victory for everyone. It's touching directly on the lives of the Ghanaian people after the hardship we've been through over the last few years, since I think March 2020, when we had to dive down the road after the substantive growth that Ghana had recorded. So it brings us after we talked about taking the bend or taking the curve, it brings us to a situation where now you see how it directly affects the lives of the people, especially the youth. When you go directly into it, you realize that the three main areas that is touching, the agriculture, the trade and industry, the tourism, and then export promotion, all affects the youth directly. And it's supposed to help them, boost them, and give them the opportunity to be on their own, create more jobs for themselves, touch their lives and their families. And especially those who come out of school and for a very long time, they'll be sitting at home. Sometimes governments wants to absorb them, but it becomes very difficult to deal with that situation. So you create the environment for them to now be able to start up on their own, and that is the way the Nkunim budget is dealing with all these. So when you go to the key areas, you realize especially recently, you saw the YEA and Youth Employment Agency and the Ministry of Agriculture partnering to do the PFJ Phase 2, where individuals have been called upon. Over 300,000 youth have been told to go into agric, and they are going to be supported from the beginning to the end of the phase. And government is even going to support them to get their produce that they are going into to the market, where government is even taking 20% of it. They are giving you 10 acres of land. They are clearing everything. They are planting from weedicides and insecticides, from fertilizers and everything. Even the farm hands are going to be given stipends to work on the farm to bring the growth that is expected. And the most important thing is to have food sustainability within the system. Once that is done, food and shelter and work is the most important thing in any economy. So once these have been satisfied, you get the totality of the people at least feeling what is in and what is there for them. So when you go through the budget with all the figures, you can tell someone you've grown by this, you've grown by that, the inflation has gone this way, we are over 54%, inflation now has dropped to 38%. But if they don't feel it in their daily lives, then it means that total work done is zero.
Indeed.
Now, what do you want to do now? You want to touch on the lives in such a way that it will impact the individual, to impact the community, and it will impact the nation as a whole. And that is where we are now. We have a situation where we've come out of the troubled global economic crunch that has gone on for the last few years. We've come out of the COVID era for March.
Are we out of the woods yet?
Not fully. There are still issues here and there. Something that has taken a longer time to go down. It's difficult to say that within a matter of 6 months, 1 year, you are just out of it. It will take time. But when you see that the path you are taking is yielding some results, you realize that you are doing the right thing and you are going towards a right direction. And that is what you realize in the last few years, even from January to date. You realize the growth rate that is going on and how things are changing, the inflation dropping, interest rates coming down, everything that went haywire is now beginning to adjust itself. It means that government has taken the right path and is doing something right for the people to feel it within themselves.
But you also is worth noting that, Mr. Thompson, that these macroeconomic indicators you make mention of were achieved on the back of very serious sacrifices made by the Ghanaian people. The impact of the domestic debt exchange program, we talk about the Bank of Ghana's record debt of over 50 billion because of the haircut they had to take in the DDEP, the inflationary rate that all of that led to, which also created an increased cost of living for all of us. Those are the huge and unthinkable sacrifices we had to make. And as to whether leadership on your part did the same, or we were just carrying the bigger part of the burden, the evidence is there, Mr. Thompson.
Alfred, if you say the Ghanaian people, whether you're a minister or you're the president, you're still a Ghanaian, you're part of the Ghanaian people. And you also feel the pain and the impact, whatever happens. We had to take a straightforward cut and go straight into it and say that, listen, we are going to take this DDEP, we are going to do everything, and we are going to take the pay maybe within a year. Then we can now start adjusting. Other countries decided to take it in piecemeals. Somewhere like
you decided
Kenya,
to give us the blow
once and for all.
And which also led
as I've been taught from primary school, they say a blow inevitably yours is early encountered. You take it once and for all and you know that I felt this pain once. And then you now come into redirecting all your resources and guards to make sure that you have a positive impact on the people. And that is what we did. Other countries decided to take some, or some countries decided to take it in piecemeals. Other people are now even calling for some reliefs and some, support. Like recently I was reading about Sweden, who is asking for a $7 billion bailout for their central bank. So it tells you that It's not only Ghana, it's everywhere. But we are concerned about our people. How do we come out of this plight? How do we help them out of their pain? And that is why, even in the face of all these challenges, you realize that GE was supporting industries or the companies. We are supporting them to come out and start like afresh. Companies suffered, individuals suffered, the government itself suffered. That is why it had to go in for this DDEP. And we thank the Ghanaian people for their support, even though it was painful, even though it was difficult for them, even though it was a serious pill to take. They challenged us, they took us on board, and they helped us come out of it. Because if it's not for them, I mean, where would we be? If it's not for their support, if it's not for the work that they've put in, and the way all the demonstrations and all they wouldn't accept, and we have to explain and everything, it's all part of building a system. And that is what we are seeing the results now. Because now you see that unlike other places where it got to a time even food and toiletries and other things were being rationed. In Ghana, it didn't happen. Places where even food was being rationed, here it didn't happen. Queues and things were happening. It didn't happen here. So it tells you that, yes, apart from, even though we are in a serious situation, we were able to manage the situation in such a way that, yes, as the president will say, we can bring back the economy, but we can't bring back dead bodies. And that is what is happening now. We had to sink in so much, and we now have to come out and make sure that whatever we are doing to bring the economy back to life is what should bear on the people. And you can feel and you can read, and I bet you that in 2024, the Ghanaian youth will come out and tell you that this budget is definitely made for them, and that is why they support this budget fully.
I see. So why didn't you remove some of the taxes or even reduce some, as there was a clarion call of the business community? Why?
You see,
in fact, at the
moment, we not introduce new tax handles. It's a give and take affair.
You are not introducing new tax handles.
I said not new. I said give and take. When you look at this thing, when you look, Master, relax.
Mr. Thompson,
when you look,
there are new tax handles in the 2024
agreed.
budget.
It will come in. Listen, when you look at what we are in now with the IMF and everything, they expect you to get more revenue as we are expected to do. But with some places like the sanitary, for example, that they've dropped the taxes there, it's supposed to help the local industries stand on their own. But that doesn't mean that you've dropped the imported ones. The taxes have been dropped on it. No. When you look at the 5% flat rate that they've put on the commercial properties, instead of the 15% that was there, you realize that they've dropped it from 15% to 5%. So there have been some drops here and there, but at the end of the day, we need to get revenue, because the debt that we have to pay will still be paid. Even though we are working and we are negotiating to get some debt reliefs and everything, you will still have to pay some debt. And we have to get revenue to pay those debts.
Why do you think taxing the people is the way out of this situation that we're dealing with? We're already burdened with so many taxes, which is impacting on us in many ways.
Agreed.
So why are you introducing new tax handles?
Agreed that taxes is the easiest way to get in, rake in revenue to pay some of these things. However, we are looking at also creating...
Some say it's the laziest way, not the easiest.
It's the easiest. I will put it the easiest. However, we are looking at creating more businesses. We are looking at increasing the business and this thing. Because if you look at the budget, for example, promotion of exports and export-related items, we are looking at creating more industries where it's going to increase from about 207 to 271 industries that are going to be added on to make sure that we get more... You broaden the tax base.
Industries.
And yeah.
What kind of industries?
For export, turning raw materials into finished goods for exports. And these are like the 1D1F we've done. So far we have about 207. And we
mean 207 what?
1D1F companies that are being
they are
supported. They are running
207 companies.
207. When you look at it, increase the number of companies from 207 functional companies to 271 functional companies. So we are looking about
that's
71.
captured in the budget, but I wanted to find out from you if it's actually the reality of the situation on the ground. 200
you can check with the trade ministry.
207.
Yeah, you can check with the trade ministry.
1D1F companies are operational.
Yeah, operational. They are
operational.
There are others that are still, we haven't added them, but they are still on the drawing board. They haven't finished fully to be fully operational, but 207 are operational now.
So are these companies that existed and you have helped, or companies that you
both
actually established right from the get-go?
Because if you
scratch?
have a company and it's existing, and you look at it and you realize that this company is near collapse, you need to support it, to revive it.
There are some companies captured in this list that we visited as a media house time past, 6 months ago, where there was no production going on. A number of them have had to halt production because of the increasing cost of production. And then also in some other areas as well, where you remember this 1D1F company that produces this plantain chips for potato chips.
Yeah.
Yes. When was the last time you visited that company? Are they running at full capacity operational?
Which one are you talking about?
This is somewhere in the central region.
Yeah, they have operational challenges, which
Yes.
it's being worked on. They are working with what do you call it, Exim Bank, to get additional facility to restart or start their operations. They have some challenges, I know for sure, that they are working on that. So you can't, those are you see, those are one-off. But you look at the entirety of what is going on. Are companies operational now? Are most companies operational now? Yes. You will definitely get some companies. And don't forget that as many companies as you operate and you work on, there will be some that will go down. You can't get all the...
yes, that's why I raised questions about the 206 figure that you put
207.
207 1D1 of companies operational.
Yeah.
Because I've just cited 2 of them, at least, one in your region,
And
which you are saying that they are going through operational
that doesn't mean
challenges.
that there are some that are not.
Okay, but if granted this, about 207 are operational and also employing people, contributing to the economy, why did industry grow or record that negative 2.2% growth in the first quarter of the year 2023?
Because majority of these companies are new companies, and you don't expect them to turn over or make income or break even within a matter of 2-3 years. It takes time. So it's an ongoing concern, but it's a going concern. But you have to also make sure that you'll be oiling them, you'll be supporting them, you'll be working with them, so it doesn't go down.
What has been the impact, the contribution to the economy?
Oh, it's created some jobs, over 100,000 jobs. I can see
100,000
over, yeah, because I know that a lot of jobs have been created.
Why are you getting this from?
When you Google even on the trade ministry, I'm sure you get the 1D1F or the job creation that is created, and I can get the figures right now and give it to you, whilst another person is talking. But I'm out of my head, I know that it's over 100,000 jobs that have been created out of most of these companies.
Wow.
And there's not a million, no. So it's not that much. It's not a million, so it's not that much. But at the end of it all, what it needs to do, what we plan on doing, is that there should be more export-based, where you can also use it as a trade balance, and also to make sure that you stabilize your foreign exchange and everything. So we are not only looking at making things or getting things that are going to just support the industry, but also to see how we can promote it out of the country. And these are things that the government have put. When you go to, when you deal with Ghana Free Zones Authority, you deal with export promotion agencies, they have a 15-man target for all these things that they've put together. And these are things that are going to help at least change the dynamics of the economy. And that is the most important thing. Making sure that whatever you are doing today will touch the life of each and every individual in one way or the other.
Okay. Thank you very much for the initial comments on this matter. We would get into this other issue, especially on this tax handles. And so I bring in Mr. John Jinapo on this, because you're a member of the Finance Committee. Now, when we reported this week, after the budget, when on Ghana Tonight, we spoke to your leader, former Deputy Finance Minister, Dr. Kesi Latofosu, who first mentioned that some 11 billion cedis in taxes have been captured in this 2024 budget. There are people who are raising questions as to exactly where these tax handles are, because they were not specifically or clearly mentioned in there. As a Finance Committee member, what are the details of these tax handles that have been introduced?
Thank you. First of all, let me just make it clear that VAT has not been reduced. What the minister is seeking to do is to replace the traditional VAT rate with a flat rate.
Yeah, of 5%. That's what I said.
Wait. You said VAT has been reduced.
No,
Let me just clear that for you. Don't worry. The traditionally, when you pay VAT on an account. You know, it's the end user who has to eventually bear the cost of VAT. So you have what you call input-output VAT. So when I pay VAT, I pay it on account. When I sell the product to the next person on the third party, then I have every right to claim back the amount that I paid. So as it goes through the value chain, you keep claiming that until the final consumer pays it.
Right.
What the minister is now going to do is that he's going to make it a flat rate of 5%, which becomes a cost item to you. And that cost item compounds as it goes through the value chain. So if I take this pen, I pay 5%, it becomes cost. I have to add it to the cost and transfer it to the next person. The next person will pay 5% on the gross amount, which keeps compounding in that order until it gets to the final consumer.
So the final consumer is eventually
So
going to pay
there's no
higher.
tax rebate at all. Please, stop that. And those who understand this sector are watching and they appreciate what I'm saying. You see, my problem is the deception. How can you give a tax rebate to somebody and increase revenue at the same time? It doesn't make sense. That you are paying 15%. I decide that I'm so good, I want to reduce your tax rate from 15 to 5%, and yet I get more from you. I mean, this can only be some Kwekwenansi story. And that is the problem with this government. Even when they are taxing us, they wouldn't admit and say the truth. That look, things are difficult, we are all sacrificing, pay a little. At least then we are within a proper context. Just some few years ago, they came and told us that, oh, now they want to simplify the tax system. So they are decoupling NHIS and Get Fund. You remember?
Yes.
We had a banter over that. You know what they do now? When you buy Martin's book for, say, 10 cedi, you pay the 2.5 NHIL. You pay the 2.5 Get Fund. They add that together and put it on top of the 10 cedi. And then you charge the VAT on the compound amount. Traditionally, you just pay 17.5% on 10 cedi. So that NHI will get their 2.5 and then Get Fund will get. But now, no, you pay NHI, you pay Get Fund. They add it to it and slap the 15% on it. So you are paying VAT on NHI. So government tax you first of all, and then you pay VAT on that tax amount. I mean, where in this country do you engage in that kind of taxation? Where you pay tax on tax that government is taxing you. That is the reality. And if you want, just go and take anybody who is imported a car. They do all these taxes, all the taxes. Oh. You pay all the tax, then when you finish paying the tax, they compound or accumulate the tax and add it to the value, and then you pay the VAT on that amount. I mean, this is so unfair. It is so unfair. But let me now come to the budget. You know, the minister was very quick about talking in respect of the economy growing to almost 1 trillion.
Yes.
That is nominal. And I'll give you a clear analogy. So you have a shop, and you have, say, 10 bags of rice. A bag is, say, 1,000 cedi. So 10 bags times 1,000 is what, 10,000? Is that not?
Yes.
10,000. 1 year down the lane, prices increase so much that a bag of rice is now like 2,000. When you value that same bag of rice, it will be 20,000. It's no growth.
What is it then?
Inflation-induced growth.
Inflation-induced growth.
Yes, but the value is the same. That is why you use the real GDP, because when you take the nominal GDP, you ought to deflate it. And you deflate it by the rate of inflation. So if your salary is increased from 10,000 to 15,000, but prices have increased by the same margin, you are not better off. That's how it is. So as you stand, as you sit, salaries, base pay has been increased by 23%. Yet inflation is 38%.
Well, 35.2.
I saw the latest one. Let's even take it to 35.
And it's still coming down.
Let's take it 35.
And it's still
It
coming
means that you are worse off. So these things they keep talking about, I find them very, very problematic. But you see, he talks about turning the corner. If you go to the budget, page 9, you would see what we call page 9, the
Mhm.
budget, page 9.
Okay.
You would see 50, 59, some growth rates there. You would see that we have Ethiopia, we have South Africa, we have Rwanda, we have Kenya, we have Mauritius, and you have ECOWAS. And this is the minister's budget. Ghana is expected to grow at 2.9 in 2023 and 3.1 in 2024. Ethiopia will grow 6.2, Rwanda 7.0, Kenya 5.3, Mauritius 3.8, Nigeria 3.1, Ivory Coast 6.6. If you take all these countries, Ghana is last. You compare yourself with your peers. So you first of all do an African average, you do a sub-Saharan African average, you do an ECOWAS average, and take some selected countries that are within your band. Ghana is last.
With all these projections,
You
it's
see,
their last.
this is his own table, not my table. Now, if you go to another one, you see inflation. Africa, 15%. Sub-Saharan Africa, 15%. Ethiopia, 29%. South Africa, 5.8. Rwanda, 14. Kenya, 17.7. Mauritius, 7.8. Nigeria, 25. Ivory Coast, 4.3. Ghana, 42.2. We are last when it comes to inflation. These are the realities.
This is on the page 9.
This is page 10.
Page 10.
I use
of
a
this
soft
budget.
copy, so but I think it's
Yes,
page 10.
It's,
I
it's
guess
actually
that,
the same.
and that is just after before paragraph 55.
Yes.
Meanwhile, when you take global prices of commodities, our main source of income is gold, cocoa beans, and crude. Cocoa is at an all-time high. Gold is at an all-time high. Crude oil, apart from 2022, is at an all-time high. So when it comes to our core revenues, we are making so much money. And yet, when you look at all these figures, Ghana appears to be doing so bad. If you take the ECOWAS rationalized convergence criteria, 1, budget deficit, we did not achieve it. Inflation, we did not achieve it. Gross external reserve, we did not achieve it. Nominal exchange rate, we did not achieve it. Public debt to GDP, we did not achieve it. All the convergence, we did not achieve them. The only one that we were compelled, because we are under an IMF program, is zero financing from the central bank. It's not as if we opted for it. It's part of the IMF program. The memorandum says that there should be zero financing from the IMF. Now take the key sectors of the economy. I mean, growth is good. GDP growth is good. I mean, nobody disputes that. But GDP growth is meaningless if it doesn't lead to job creation, it doesn't lead to welfare, and some other key indicators. Those are the key indicators you look at. Also, you just don't look at the global GDP growth. You look at sectorial growth. Which sectors of the economy is growing? Because when key sectors of the economy is growing, it leads to employment, especially industry, construction, those areas.
We've had jobless growth in the time
they
past before.
are what you call transformational growth. Because when they grow, for instance, the industry has the capacity to do what you call mass absorption of the youth. So take table 8, page 23. Growth performance in the industry. Manufacturing, negative 1.1. Electricity, negative 0.7. Water and sewage, negative 4.9. Construction, negative 8.9.
The construction sector.
Yes, check. Table 8, growth performance in industry, page 23. You can check.
Yes.
This is his budget, not my budget.
That's.
You look at the growth rates.
It's in this.
Yes,
document that
2023
we all
H1.
have.
That's first.
You have that as well.
You've seen
Yes.
it? Yeah. Is it?
You've seen it. I have it.
Negative, 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 negative.
This is for industry.
This is for industry, and they've broken down into
the overall.
Not overall, the key ones: manufacturing,
Yeah, I mean the
electricity,
those key places.
water and sewage, construction. These are the key areas. All of the negative, 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 negative. And this man has the audacity the temerity to come and tell us that he has turned the corner.
But so the economy hasn't turned the corner.
Which corner have you turned? Your currency is depreciated by 25% so far. You see, that's the rate of depreciation. Last year, it was about 50. This year, 25.
That's what he said is of stability.
Which stability? The only reason why we are stable is that this government has emaciated it so much that our purchasing power has reduced. Following the domestic debt exchange, people do not simply have money. And it's a natural phenomenon, it's a natural occurrence. When your purchasing power is so reduced that you can no longer procure or purchase, inflation will come down. It's a natural consequence. It's not because government has boosted productivity. And I'm just showing you that productivity is not boosting. If productivity increases, that means that you are generating more, you are producing more, so inflation will come down. Because inflation is from two folds: cost push inflation and demand pull inflation. So if your cost is high, it leads to inflation. As it's showing here, people are not producing. When people are not producing, it should normally lead to inflation. But when there's no demand and people don't have the money to procure, it will lead to some reduction in inflation. And that is a natural phenomenon, is a natural occurrence. If you look at our trade balance, we've put so much duties at the port. Please, just ask the importers. Let them give you their itemized bill. I have one here. A simple car, Toyota Sienna, we had to pay 210,000 as total duty. Not a luxury car. Sienna that you need for productivity. 210,000 cedi. When you do that, imports will go down. There's something you call a Marshallana condition. In economics, when your currency depreciates so much, it makes imports very, very expensive.
Yes.
When imports are very expensive, it leads to less consumption. As consumption reduces, import reduces. So it's just a natural phenomenon that we are experiencing from the very draconian policy measures that this government is implementing. Look, if you go to the budget proper, the minister is very, very clear. Mr. Speaker, the budget presents a number of measures aimed at raising approximately 1.3% of GDP in terms of revenue. He seeks to raise additional 11 billion.
You say through taxes?
Through taxation. He himself says revenue measures. It is here. Government in its quest to sustain and improve tax to GDP ratio from 13 to 18%. Because you know, when your GDP grows nominally, it reduces your debt to GDP. So you are happy. But it also reduces your tax to GDP. Because the tax is a certain amount that you are getting. The GDP is the debt is a certain debt stock. So as the GDP grows, you see a lower debt to GDP. But you also see a lower tax to GDP. And the IMF being so clever, signed to government, achieve a lower debt to GDP, but a higher tax to GDP. So the two cannot just be achieved simple like that by reevaluating your GDP or increasing your GDP. And so what he's doing, he is helpless. He is just seeking to achieve an IMF conditionality. That says that increase your tax to GDP to a certain threshold. But if you want to know the health of the economy, look at how much government itself is borrowing. What rate is government borrowing? Over 30%.
30, 33, that's for even the short-dated instruments, 91-day treasury bills and
That
so on.
should tell you the state of the economy. It was around 20-something% when he said we're turning the corner. It has moved from, I think, 25 or so. I'll check from the data. We are now at what? Over 30%. And that leads to what we call crowding out. And it's this crowding out that is reflecting in most of the key sectors growing at a negative rate. So, Chief, look, this is the verdict. And this is the truth. He talked about USTAT. USTAT was announced in November 2022.
I didn't say USTAT. I said the youth.
I talked the youth. What youth is the USTAT? I said he talked about USTAT.
The product of it.
Captured in the
I said he.
While you round up for me.
No, because the point. Yes, because he mentioned it.
Why are you?
Yeah, he mentioned
it.
Okay, let me just round up on USTAT. He says USTAT is the key to youth employment. and that he seeks to create 1 million jobs in 3 years. The 3 years is almost due. When I read the budget, do you know what they've achieved? 2.3%.
Of the 1 million.
Of the 1 million target.
Is it a start?
Is it?
Is it a start?
No, the man has put a target. He says in 3 years, I want to do.
Start, they're not creating at all.
It's worse.
Is it a start,
Because you got about 100,000 people to go home under NAPCO. These are people who've tasted a bit of money. All of a sudden, 100,000, you tell them, go home. And he says that you are absorbing them onto YouStart. Your target is 1 million. You've achieved 2.3, and you say, is it a start or not? I mean, look, this government there,
thank you.
Outlived your usefulness, you've run out of ideas, you have no basis to stay in power beyond 2024. This is a fact. You must go home.
From you.
I've just presented you with figures from your own budget.
Okay. Professor Godfrey Bobkin, let me bring you on this point. And the importers and exporters are watching, and some of them sent us message. Professor Godfrey Bobkin, you see this list, they provide import duty, import VAT, processing fee, ECOWAS levy, vehicle examination fee, network charge, VAT, network charge, COVID-19, Ghana Shippers Authority, SNF fee, import NHIL, network charge NHIL, IRS tax deposit, Ghana Health Services infection fee, Ministry of Trade and Industry, IDF fee. You have import levy, special import levy, 2%, Ghana Export Import Bank, that's EXIM levy, Ghana Education Trust Fund, that's a GET Fund levy on imports, network charge, GET Fund levy, inspection fee, African Union import levy, COVID-19 health recovery levy. All of those are still there in the list of taxes that you pay at the ports when you import items into this country. Could this budget have done anything to bring relief to the business community beyond what we saw?
Good morning once again. That's interesting. This didn't start 2 years ago, 3 years ago. If you look at Ghana's tax environment over the years, in fact, we've tracked that from 1993 under the Fourth Republic. Governments come and go. If you look at their actions over the years, you will see clearly that what we have been doing in Ghana in terms of taxation is not really born out of any tax policy necessarily. It's a form of robbery. It's a state-sponsored robbery that we are seeing in this country. Why do I say it's a state-sponsored robbery? If you look at the layers of taxes that you have listed, and that clearly tells you that this is not born out of a clear tax policy that is supposed to inure to a greater economic transformation and improve an inclusive productivity group. No, not at all. This is a country where the state uses its leverage to sustain its lifestyle, very expansionary, okay? And then finds a very convenient way of loading its lifestyle costs to the households, the citizens, and then the private sector over the years. So you see this state institution finds a space and they want to impose a levy because it can be done. And that's why you see all those layers. So since 1992, you actually see that it's quasi-state institutions that have been expanding across the length and breadth of this country, largely. You look at the size. If you look at the employment size of some of the state-owned enterprises, okay, they have increased significantly in the last 20 years. You don't find the same happening in pure private sector, right? So that is what we've been doing. That's not tax policy, that is robbery. Then again, that is just one level. If you look at the personal income tax, if you look at other consumption-based taxes and the rest of them, what we are doing as a country is actually creating a financially repressed society, right? Where just a few people will be able to skip through to the top. You may find something like this in some other countries, probably in terms of effective marginal tax. But in those countries, the state is very efficient in the delivery of public services, water, electricity, education. When they say it's free, yes, free both in terms of quantity and then quality and all of that. So when you look at the statistics, you look at manufacturing over the years, you look at private sector defined broadly and all of that, you really don't see expansion going on much. And it's that's not rocket science. You know, you can't be doing this austerity year in, year out. And you check Ghana's budget effectively from 1996 coming. The first 2 years of almost all our budget statements are full of austerity measures. Austerity. Now, the idea is that it's very difficult to pursue inclusive growth and austerity at the same time. There has to be a trade-off. And that is why, well, I'll lean a bit more towards what Honorable John Jinapo was saying, that, you know, if you look at the implications of the austerity measures, essentially from 2020 COVID and the rest of them, certainly something has to give, and that is growth. You're not going to get that quality growth. Now, if you look at it also, if you look at the data government itself has presented, you will see that Ghana's structural peers, we can compare ourselves along several layers. We have regional peers, structural peers, aspirational peers, service pastor peers, and the rest of them. If you look at our structural peers and the rest of them, COVID affected all of us. But if you look at the data and you look at the rebounding, if you look at the rate of recovery of those countries, you can see that they have been a bit consistent and higher than that of Ghana. Now, that is also a reflection of the extent of the impact of the COVID and then Russia, Ukraine. And that is also as a result of your own local policy weaknesses. So countries with a little bit of stronger resilience are able to withstand those shocks much better, and therefore their recovery tends to be much faster than the rest of. But in the case of Ghana, you can see how others probably had a V shape, others are having U shape, ours is lying a bit flat. And even all the way up to 2024, you do not expect that the critical subsectors of the economy would actually rebound in a manner that can create jobs. You look at the growth forecast for 2024. That is woefully inadequate. Look at non-oil growth forecast for 2024. Look at overall GDP forecast for 2024. That is actually not growth that can lift millions of Ghanaians out of poverty and narrow the inequality. So that tells you that
finance minister is just being conservative, but to what extent?
No, but the point is that, yes, you can be conservative. There's nothing wrong with that, but you have to mirror reality. If you look at the variance, the point is that your economy essentially is not expanding along job-intensive subsectors of the economy. It's not expanding. It's not expanding. We know that fiscal consolidation measures would impose cost in the immediate. There's a trade-off. There's a trade-off. The trade-off is growth. The trade-off is job creation. Let me give you an example. The 16th IMF-supported program that kicked in from April 3rd, 2015 to April 2019, the IMF had as one of its program objectives, job creation. Job creation. In other words, they were experimenting to see how under that fiscal consolidation, how that could also create jobs
jobs
at the same time. At the end of the day, the IMF program couldn't tell us how much jobs the program created. So in the program evaluation, there was clearly no mention of job creation, not at all. So we asked them that one of the program objectives was job creation. Where are the jobs? The IMF best response in the 17th IMF supported program is to omit that in the program objectives. Okay, because it's very difficult to have fiscal consolidation measures the way we have it right now and pursue growth also in the immediate. It's very difficult. And bear in mind, Alfred, let's not do politics about this. I'll give you the data. That is perhaps the benefit of what we can also get from those of us in academia, because we should be able to track things over a long period of time and then learn from it. Since 1992, as I said earlier, you see the fiscal consolidation. So when we create distortions in the economy, some of them fueled by election, commodity shocks, you can have a combination of external and internal shocks. We were using 2 years for fiscal consolidation measures to recover. Now, and then it got to a point we're using 3 years. We're using 4 years. So within the election cycle, we were unable to recover from those shocks through fiscal consolidation largely, and then another election year will come. Now we have, with COVID and all of that, we are at the stage where, as a country, our traditional method of correcting the distortions, which has been fiscal consolidation, is no longer enough. Hello?
I can hear you clearly.
Yeah, it's no longer enough. And that is why in the latest IMF supported program, the consideration is that after adjusting for fiscal consolidation, fiscal adjustment, we could not restore debt sustainability. What that tells you is that now we have moved to another layer. Remember, fiscal consolidation imposes cost in terms of higher revenue, because the household and private sector are paying for it. We can also have expenditure restraint rationalization. Government is the biggest consumer in the economy. The government is cutting on its expenditure, except when it's wasteful expenditure, and that is not the kind of expenditure cut we are seeing here. That again will weigh heavily on households and private sector as they interact with the public sector. That's one level. Now we are at a stage where, and that I'm saying this so that we take a very sober reflection of where Ghana is. Let's not do politics about it. We are in a real difficult situation that requires honesty, truthfulness, that rallies every Ghanaian together so we can come out of this inclusively. So now fiscal adjustment is no longer enough. We are doing debt treatment. In the time past, we had done debt treatment so with the external debt alone to complement fiscal adjustment. That is not enough anymore. Now we are doing domestic debt exchange. Remember, that is also imposing cost, disruptions, impairing the balance sheet of households and private sector. If you put all these things together, ultimately it's going to affect the ability of your economic drivers to respond to your economic policy prescriptions and the rest of it. And that is where we find ourselves, unfortunately. That's where we find ourselves. Now, if you aid, and I'm saying if you aid, and that is what Ghana has done, we've seen shocks. But when your own policy weaknesses, failures, significantly aid economic disruptions, it will take a little while before you bottom out. So, and that is why a bit of lack of honesty here worries me, that we keep telling Ghanaians that we have turned the corner, but the data doesn't suggest so. You can't just bottom out. You just can't bottom out within the shortest possible time, because correcting economic disruptions can be costly. And again, it can take a little while. That's where we are. Now, what am I arriving at? So we need a little bit of patience, but to have that, we need honesty, truthfulness, and then also we must also make sure that there is fair treatment when it comes to the adjustment costs and the rest of them. We've said that time and again that government essentially didn't do its part of the haircut. Okay, so that is where we are. Then, Alfred,
I wanted to just quick one on this, and you talk about the real difficult situation that we find ourselves in that requires a bit of honesty and truthfulness. Have you seen that from government or reflected in this budget presented by the finance minister?
No. In fact, this budget for me is one of the uninspiring budgets I have seen from this government. Actually,
one of the uninspiring budgets.
Yes, very, very uninspiring. I'm saying this because probably on a certain breath, this may be the president's last budget. And that is why I'm saying that this is one of the uninspiring. This is your last budget. You throw in everything. It's just like in the football game, the last few minutes, probably you are substituting defenders and putting in strikers. You are looking for goals. Of course, you also have to watch your back and all of that. But that is not happening here. It tells you that probably the government has given up, largely. There isn't really much innovativeness in this budget. You look at government's own assessment of how agriculture sector is going to perform 2023, 2024. It's going to slow down. It's going to slow down 2023, 2024. Look at government's own assessment of industry and where the growth will come from. If you look at the first 2 quarters, growth that we have seen, that is even outperforming forecasts, and we are celebrating. It's not job-rich growth. It's growth that is coming from agriculture, largely driven by crops and livestock. When it comes to service, it's essentially ICT, the rest of them. When it comes to industry, it's just mining and quarrying, right? You look at Ghana's GDP dynamics, growth dynamics, Alfred, between 2012 and 2020, 2021, nearly 20% of our GDP growth is driven by mining. Within that same period, that sector has practically not contributed to job creation. So at the center of policy prescription, it's about people. Your economic recovery must be about people. Must also reflect in protecting our planet, our environment. Okay, so what recovery are we seeing in our water bodies in the rural areas? We are destroying the rural ecosystem that supports life, with water as its embodiment. What is happening there? What recovery is happening over there? If you pick agriculture, what recovery is happening there? The recovery we are seeing, Alfred, is not broadening. Pick food inflation. It's come down from 49% to 44%. October. Alfred, look at regional differences with inflation.
Yes. I see that a number of the food growing areas are recording very high inflation rates.
Look at food inflation in Northeast. Look at food inflation in the Eastern region.
In fact, the Western North recorded the highest.
Yes. Does that not tell you something? Okay, so beyond broad policies, we need targeted policies. Let's go back to the data. The data is speaking. Let's listen to that. Let that inform our pronouncement. You know, that is why sometimes you find that academics usually wouldn't want to take on government that way. But the point is that let's look at the data. If we are looking at the data, of course, there could be marginality in how we interpret the data and all of that. But usually, it should point to a certain trend. So recovery is not broad, it's not broad-based. There are headwinds.
This 1 trillion GDP growth that the finance minister was very emphatic about, talked about it being historic. What is the real impact of this particular 1 trillion GDP growth?
Yes, Alfred, under normal circumstances, this should call for some level of celebration. I will not hide from that. As individuals, as a country, we celebrate significant milestones in our lives. People spend age 25, people spend age 50, age 70, 75, 80. It's a base drift. We are heading into the trillions. Great. How inclusive is that? How much of that is reflecting in the pocket of the ordinary Ghanaian on the street? Granted, largely driven by price. That's nominal. Great. How much of that is reflecting in the pocket of the ordinary Ghanaian? How many Ghanaians can identify with that nominal GDP? So when it comes to, we've seen positive growth, which is also driving that. But that growth is benefiting a tiny few. It's not growth that is carrying along Ghanaians. It's not growth that is broad-based, that has roped in moderate and low-income earners. Last year alone, the World Bank told us that inflation inspired poverty was more than 800,000 people. I'm looking forward to seeing in this budget how many people, as a result of the interventions government is putting in place, how many Ghanaians will be lifted out of poverty. How will this narrow inequality? How job rich would this be? We are looking at Ghana's growth trajectory. We are looking at population forecast all the way up to 2024, 2040. Our population will be 45 million. 58% of that population, they will be less than 30 years. They will be entering the labor market. They will be looking for decent jobs, especially in the formal wage economy. How are we preparing? How are we laying a foundation today for economic transformation and inclusive productivity growth that will create jobs for our people? We are not seeing that. Of course, I've seen one or two other things in the budget talking about making amendment to the Fiscal Responsibility Act, particularly looking at the Fiscal Council. When the MPP was in opposition, one of the things they told us and we identified with was that they were going to make the Fiscal Council independent. Then what happened? Okay, after so many years in office, almost 8 years in office, they are now talking about making it independent and guaranteeing it operational independence. This is not good as a country.
Right.
Because now you are leaving office, essentially. You are leaving office. You are leaving office. So whatever changes you are making today, because you knew you could not live under that yourself. And that is not good enough. Ghanaians deserve better. So let's look at it from those dynamics. Then I'll come to the taxes. I think Ghana needs a reset. You know, when we say we need a reset, we should be striking a good balance between the state's desire to raise revenue without compromising the competitiveness of the private sector and then households.
Right.
Yeah, Alfred, because of the level of taxes, the average Ghanaian is unable to save. And any country that is not saving significantly cannot accumulate capital to take advantage of the limited economic opportunities that are being created. You know, in the 70s and 80s, when the IMF, World Bank led structural reforms and the rest of them, when they said, let's sell our state-owned enterprises because the state was inefficient in managing them, Ghanaians didn't have the capital to buy them. So eventually, we had to look up to foreign investors. So this economy gradually, every critical aspect of this economy is being taken up by foreign investors, whether in agriculture, real estate, construction, all over. Because the average Ghanaian cannot accumulate capital. If there's an economic opportunity today, and they ask the average Ghanaian, even in the middle class, those who claim they have crossed the poverty line, even if they didn't see the line, and you ask them to put $50,000 on the table, they can't raise that. And that is why increasingly the local content in our economy is decreasing. And we are losing. So when you talk about our GDP hitting 1 trillion cedis by the end of 2024, probably foreigners should be more excited about that, because the larger portion of that is actually reflecting in their pockets, in their economies, and not here.
Right.
This is not growth Ghanaians can celebrate and identify with.
And you speak the language of many people who are not able to save. indeed. Professor Godfrey, on the back of that, and let me bring in Mr. Alfred Thompson on this, because you've described the kind taxes we're paying at state-sponsored robbery. That is robbing people of, in fact, unable to even save. Businesses are actually closing down as a result of this, and that's according to the likes of GUTA and the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and indeed even in the AGI as well. If this state-sponsored robbery is in the form of taxes is bringing us this much misery, why not explore other areas, Mr. Alfred Thompson? Because data doesn't suggest that we have been growing, and data is speaking. I don't know if you are listening to data in doing your analysis.
Okay, thank you. I'll just correct one or two errors that occurred in. There are 207 factories I mentioned. 126 are operational. And that's created 126
Not 207 you mentioned.
There are 207 has been sponsored, but 126 are operational. And out of that, we have 160,000 jobs, direct and indirectly, that are working within those.
You are quoting from the budget, so.
That are working within the listener. No, I got the extracts from another listener, the trade source. Now, there are so many things we have to address here. He talked about and I'll start with the tax system. When MPP took office in 2017, if you quite remember, we took about 15 nuisance taxes out of the system. However, as time is growing and with the increase of this IMF and how to be debt sustainable, you needed to bring in one or two taxes that would help, manage and be able to pay your debts. We all know, and we've stated over and over again, NPP as a party, that we want to be more industrious than to be tax driven. That is less taxes and more industry based. And that is why we had a conscious effort to create all these 126 plus factories or 207 factories, whether sponsored or starting from the beginning. And that is a conscious effort that was put in.
I'm sorry.
Others would say...
You do say created 120 something?
I said either created or sponsored to continue. Do you understand that one?
There are two things. 120 something factories.
There's 120, 207 factories have been sponsored. 126 are operational. Some are either created from the scratch or they have been sponsored by giving them support. No, I can't give you the figures now. I can't give you the figures now.
You let him go. I want to note something.
Okay. You can note it, and you can note it and ask your questions time when you get to your turn. So I respond around that time. Now, when you make a conscious effort by saying that this is how we want to go, industrialization, what you are trying to do is you are trying to build a base. I'm happy Godfrey said that, most of these, when they wanted to sell during the PNDC era, when they wanted to do the sales of these industries and factories and things, most of them were bought by foreigners. And yes, it's true. And that is why when we came in, our conscious effort was to help our people grow.
What is the state of affairs now?
With which one?
That process of helping businesses grow.
It's still ongoing, and that is why I'm shocked that he was saying that he didn't see anything meaningful in the budget. I'm shocked, because when you even go to the promotion of exports, it's written in black and white that we are going to add additional 64 to make sure that industries are created. When you look at agriculture, we've stated how we are going to drive agriculture and the sustainability of it. We've talked about aquaculture. We've talked of trade and industry. We've talked about youth in employment. So when you tell me that you don't appreciate the budget and you don't give me substantive things to tell me that, what do you call it?
Professor Godfrey, what in detailed, substantive and substantial details of why this budget is uninspiring?
He is saying that it's uninspiring to him. And I'm giving you details why a youth will take this budget and say that he is happy with this. Because if I can walk, if I cannot go and take a loan or a facility, or I can go to a bank and take a facility and say I'm starting a farm, and the farmers, they are going to charge me about over 24% interest on whichever money I take. And the government is going to sponsor me from A to Z. Get the land, grade the land, get the farm people, get the implements, get the fertilizer and everything. At next to nothing. Why wouldn't I be inspired? Why wouldn't I go there and do the job? Why would I want to wait for a prof to come and tell me that, oh, your budget is uninspiring, so I shouldn't go for it? You see, so let us look at it in the positive light. You might like some things, you might dislike some things, but what you need to do is look at the positivity of the budget. What can it do to help people? What can it do to build people up? What can it do to give jobs? And the job is targeted. The job is targeted at individuals, not at maybe a government is going to create a whole clean job for different people. That is not going to happen. You see, and so we need to sometimes appreciate what really goes into the budget. And this is the budget that, in fact, the stakeholders that were consulted were many. All the industries, from sector to sector, they consulted a lot of people.
And in fact, after the budget was presented, we went to these stakeholders and they all indicated that their expectations were not met.
You have different expectations. They will take some, they will leave some. They can't take everything from everybody. And they are conflicting sometimes. If you remember very well, when AGI and this Guta were fighting about this benchmark values, I was in the studio when I said that these are the difficulties that government face. Should we make Guta happy or should we make AGI happy? And these are some of the things that will happen. That when some of these things, when suggestions are created, at least don't expect that if you've said 10, if you brought 10 suggestions, I'll put all 10 suggestions there. Because I'm taking it from different angles. So I'll pick someone's own, I'll pick this, I'll pick that, and I'll put it together. At least if you have one out of everything that you said, and you see that it can reflect, it's good. And these are the things that we have to look out for. We shouldn't, one thing he said, and you see, when you are looking in the budget and you get your figures there, and you tell me that government is being dishonest, I ask a question. Where are you coming from? Why is government being dishonest? Why is government being dishonest? Because everything that John mentioned here, he took it from the budget. Everything that Godfred was saying, he took it from the budget. So where is government being dishonest? By giving you the figures? By telling you that, listen,
the dishonesty is not giving the figures.
I'm coming.
Is the interpretation
you are telling me that, listen,
of the figures
so I should come and lie to
you.
I should come and lie to you that, listen, electricity, we are going to make a positive impact. Water, we are going to make a positive impact. This, we are going to make positive impact. Because I'm expecting that about 300,000 people, youth, will go into agriculture. So that is it. We won't come and lie to you. We'll tell you that these are the figures. But what am I doing to curb all these things that we are expecting that will have a negative effect on the country? And that is why we have created the situation where you can read and write and say that, yes, jobs are going to be created.
Do you appreciate the realities of the Ghanaian people? Like what Ghanaians are going through?
Yes, the pain and things that we are going through. We all appreciate it. And that is why there is conscious effort to make sure that individuals can... Listen, do you know what it takes to walk to a bank and ask them that, oh, I need a facility to start something? And then they will tell you that, listen, you need to bring a collateral with double the amount.
That's why I asked that earlier question about the specific provisions in this budget to help businesses, not the ones you intend to create. Talking about the businesses that exist, that are faced with the difficulties of this, what Pastor Godfred Bokrin talked about, the state-sponsored robbery in the form of taxes. What are you doing to sustain those businesses or reduce their cost of doing business?
2016 to 2019, when we took over the reins of this country, and at that time, Dunso had crippled most businesses. Didn't GEA work with businesses to revive them? Didn't we give them facilities? Ask them and see. We gave people facilities to revive their companies that had been crippled by the previous administration of John and his bosses.
So what's the situation now?
The situation now is that we are going to make sure that businesses will be supported. Businesses will be helped. And once you have a business that is going to create jobs, and get more people on board, definitely the government will sponsor you. And it's in their budget.
That's why I was asking
it's in their budget.
the specific instance or the specific provision in the budget to help businesses. But you have not answered that specific question. That's why I keep going back to it. Because and that bit about, you see, when you talk about taxes, the people get agitated because of the impact that it would have on it.
And that is what we've always stated.
That's where the concern
that
is.
We don't want to be a taxing government. But the situation we find ourselves in now, you need to start somewhere and gradually migrate into something else. And that is why we are still working assiduously to make sure that we create the avenue for more people to go into private businesses like industries and doing their own thing. Agriculture, aquaculture, tourism, and so many more. You can only create the avenue. Government can do that and support them financially. And there is a budget for that. So when you come in and you come and tell me that, oh, yes, we are taxing. Yes, we are taxing. I won't say that we are not taxing. We are taxing. But you are creating that tax, you are creating that avenue to make sure that you get enough funding to support people who can create businesses for people to be employed. Because I cannot do the employment now. I'm at the end of my rope. So I need to create the avenue for you to do the employment. And that is what government is doing. Government is making sure that we are putting every necessary measure in place for people to be able to go and pick facilities without. When you work with GEA, when you work GIPC, when you work with what do you call it, GEPA, that is Export Promotion Authority, they would give you the necessary, they even give up to the seedlings for coconut, other things that are being done. They will give it to you for you to start. When it gets to the stage that they have to help you to even export it, they support you with that. Isn't that good enough?
When Professor Godfrey Popping was speaking, Jennifer, I'll bring you in here. The specifics that he made reference to was data that is existing.
I forgot to talk about it. We talked about something
in a minute.
I was asking him about the 2016, the effect of their rebasing. When he talked about our debt to GDP and everything, he's forgotten that in 2016, when they did the rebasing, their debt to GDP was about almost 80%.
No, the rebasing was when we left office.
Yes, when you left office. And when you look at it, the debt to GDP under your thing was about almost 76+%.
What are we talking about?
So I'm talking about the debt to GDP and all these
so all right.
When you are criticizing us that
in our financials, that this comes in, but
bad,
anyway, the data
we didn't
that
meet a worse one.
Professor Godfrey Popping was talking about is suggestive of where we are as an economy and as a people. And he went into detail specifically as to why this economy hasn't turned the corner. And he's speaking to data and is asking that you listen. This, and this is to Mr. Jinapo, there is something before you, the Finance Committee, about some companies, 47 of them, that tax exemptions
I'm coming there.
that government has put before you to approve 549 billion,
yes,
equivalent to about 5.5 billion Ghana cedis.
Yes.
In fact, $549 million, an equivalent of 5.5 billion cedis, for items to be cleared at the ports by a number of companies. And we understand that the items have been cleared already, but then these tax exemptions are sought to be granted?
Yeah. And that is where they call the 1D1F. What they do is that they select some companies, bring them to Parliament, grant them tax exemption, and then they say, oh, count companies under operation under 1D1F.
Are they Ghanaian companies?
I'm telling you how you classify. No, he's raising an important issue. We are losing almost 540 billion. In fact, let me thank members of the Finance Committee, both majority and minority. A lot of our members have insisted that won't pass that. And I hope that we can, for the first time, both majority and minority, stand firm and say no to this obnoxious policy of tax exemption. It's become business. It's become an avenue for corruption.
The tax exemption?
The tax exemption is nothing but an avenue for corruption. And quote me. And so we say we are fed up. Members of the Finance Committee say we cannot be granting such tax exemptions. That makes no meaning. Look, it's an avenue for stealing.
Specific,
I'm telling you that we have even On our own, we've drafted a policy guideline. Normally, we shouldn't do that. Government has this policy, they bring it and we approve. But we are saying they won't allow that. We have problems with the way government is going about with the tax exemption. So on our own, we've drafted our own guideline to say that we cannot. What they are simply doing, all companies. So that's why I asked him, how many companies have you established? Old companies. Some will just come and say, we imported X amount. We want tax exemption. Then they grant it to them. And I tell you, see, this is a very, very professional, high-level program. So I don't want to speak about some of the things we hear at committee. It's nothing but an avenue for corruption. And when they do that, they then box all of them together. And then they come and say, oh, government 1D, 1F, 100 and something companies are under operation. More than half of them have been captured because they've been granted tax exemption. And like Prof said, the data. As we were speaking, I went to WDI. WDI is an authentic data source. World Development Indicators from the World Bank. I just downloaded 2008 to 2022. So when you engage in what you call 1D, 1F, the objectives are like 2 or 3. 1, you want to grow the economy. 2, you want to create jobs. That's very, very important. 3, you want to close your import-export bill, which then affects what you call the current account, which is basically the difference between your export and your import in terms of goods and services, which then affects your balance of payment and then affects your currency. It makes your currency very stable.
Yes.
That is what you call the value chain analysis. Now, employment in industry, percentage of total employment. Look at where we are. Before we left office, it was 18%. Today is 18.7. So what have you achieved?
What is the real figure?
Normally, you don't deal with nominal figures.
So
nominal figures can be very deceptive, but I can deal with that. You deal with relativities so that you can compare. Because nominal figures, like I just showed you, inflation and all that, can be illusional. So you have to use relativities in terms of what you call elasticities, so that you can get it correct. Now look at here. Industry, value added. 2016, 4.5. Look at where we are. Negative 2.4, negative 0.0, 5.7. So there's no real difference. Look at industry itself. Value added as a percentage of GDP. From 31% in 2015. Today we are still at 31%. So policy is aimed at something. You don't implement policy just for the fun of it. So when you say 1D, 1F, it's a policy. What do you seek to achieve? What are the measurables? What's the baseline information? Having implemented it for 8 years, what is the impact? Then you do what they call impact analysis. It's zilch. It is zilch. And it's because of this corruption that I'm talking about, that under the guise of promoting 1D, 1F, it has become an avenue for stealing. But that is a fact.
If you are approving it, then how does it become corruption?
That is why we say we won't approve it.
So this latest application.
No, we said that the way it is going.
But have you approved
previous ones? That is why we say we won't do it. It's because we've approved previous ones. We thought it was good. But we then embark on a monitoring mechanism. And we realize that no, it's nothing but an avenue for corruption. And we say we won't do it again. Both majority and minority. If it was good, we would have continued in that order.
So there was consensus at the finance committee level.
I'm telling you, there's consensus at the finance committee.
You are not approving
that we will not, and I hope
tax exemptions.
That this government will not bring pressure to bear on the people. Look, today unemployment is at an all-time high in terms of a certain period. Prof just gave us the data. World Bank itself has indicated that almost 1 million people have fallen into the poverty bracket. Do you know what it means?
In 800,000 people have fallen
into the poverty bracket.
In Africa, how many?
Okay.
We are the worst.
Your president went out to say, when Mahama went on a world distance, he went to say over 5 million people have fallen into the
Let me share this data with you. Let me share.
And he knows.
He
knows. But he keeps on going that way.
What is he talking? I'm talking anyway. Viewers,
let me explain it to you.
Let me
Okay, we go ahead.
I'm looking at the revenue figures. Government wants to increase revenue from 107 to 176 billion. They want to increase the revenue by almost 70 billion in 1 year. And that for me is quite worrying.
Why?
No, you're breaking our backs.
How?
No, most of this is driven by taxation or inflation.
No. It could
but
be.
I've just shown you. It could be. No, I've just shown you the evidence here.
Okay.
But even the outer, I went to the appendixes because normally, if you want to get the budget proper, you go to the appendix.
Indeed.
The revenue target for January to August was 82 billion. We got only 79 billion. That's what we got. So, like 3 billion deficit. But that is not my worry. The revenue itself, like I said, is 79 billion. So I just approximated it to 80 billion and divided by 3 because we are dealing with 3 quarters. If you divide the 80 billion by 3, you get 26 billion per quarter, which means that quarter 1, 26 billion, quarter 2. So that is the trajectory.
Yeah.
And yet our target is 133 billion. That should be worrying. It means that we need to gather 54 billion in 1 quarter. Meanwhile, your quarterly performance is 26, 26, 26. I'm asking myself, what magic can push you from a quarterly performance of 26, 26, 26 to get more than 100% or more than twice what you've been doing? I'll push that at the finance committee and I'll demand some answers. It's because it sounds very, very worrying for me. The last one.
Right.
When your current account is doing very well, like the minister is trying to tell us, it means that you are importing less. When you import less, when your current account is in positive, it means you are exporting more.
More and importing less.
Yeah, if it's in a negative, then you are importing more. And if you're importing more, then you have to fall on the capital account.
Indeed.
Because then you have to borrow to cover up the differential, which would then affect your reserves. Because either you borrow or you go into the reserves. But when you are doing positive with your capital current account, you are doing positive with your overall trade. And yet your reserves are going down. Maybe Prof might want to explain that to me. It's quite worrying.
Prof,
moreover, you've suspended payment in terms of debt servicing. You know government has suspended payment in terms of debt servicing. For almost a year, we are not servicing our debt. So you are not servicing your debt. You are not servicing your debt. Please, can I please listen? You are not servicing your debt. Your current account is doing well. Your balance of payment is supposed to be doing well. You are not servicing your debt. Your trade balance is supposed to be doing well. And yet, you are supposed to be doing even well again with gold for oil. And yet, the reserves are dropping. It doesn't balance. No, it doesn't balance for me.
Explain that in a minute. That is, if
there's
any explanation to this. Professor Poppin.
But it doesn't balance for me.
Professor Poppin, that's to you. Does this disconnect, as George Nabo has just outlined, is there an explanation to it?
Yes,
that picture is just painted in a minute.
Yeah, so you can look at that from the balance of payment data from Bank of Ghana. So I think from 2017 we have recorded trade surplus, essentially meaning that we are exporting more than we are actually importing. Theoretically, and I think I lean towards Honorable John Jinapo's explanation. Theoretically, that should contribute to the strengthening of your local currency. That is not happening. The betrayal already, we can also see that from the data from Bank of Ghana, is the services and income accounts. So you see that the positive balance from the trade balance, which is positive, is not significant enough to offset the huge negative figure with the services and income account, which is also a subcomponent of the current account. But this is what it means, and that was what I said earlier, that the export is recorded in our books, but ownership does not reside with Ghana. That's very important. So foreign companies that are resident here and all residents in terms of the way the balance of payment data is collected, you foreigners who have been here for more than 1 year, resident companies and all of that, they don't have to be Ghanaian companies necessarily. So when they all export out of this country, they are captured in our books. But not all the export earnings are repatriated to Ghana. So it doesn't reflect totally in your reserves. Then again, because we are not saving, we are not particularly investing in the production value chain, is foreign capital. It's foreign capital. So the return on foreign capital also goes. That is captured through the income and services account. You will see all of that living. Dividend repatriation, profit repatriation, and all of that. So a good way to understand this is that, yes, we've seen the positive balance. It's just like saying that Ghana is pounding enough fufu for others to go and eat. Local content is very low. Every critical aspect, high profit earning aspect of this economy is owned by foreigners. And they are here to make money and send it to their countries. So it's not rocket science. How do we promote indigenous Ghanaian businesses to gradually begin to make inroads into certain critical sectors of the economy? Look, Alfred, pick the banking sector. Look at local content. Pick mining. Look at local content. You look at the positive growth drivers, right? The subsectors of the economy driving the growth. Look at local content in those areas.
And
So
the banking sector in itself is still railing under, especially the local banks, the impact of the DDEP and the financial sector cleanup.
Our banking sector, if you take the foreign banks out, Ghana practically doesn't have a banking sector. Wow. If you pick the foreign banks, you take them out, Ghana doesn't have a banking sector. So I think that there's one thing growing the economy, and there's another thing working to improve the redistribution of the wealth, but also by increasing local content. And look, Alfred, the explanation I gave earlier, I wasn't targeting the political party. I've given you data from 1993 across the two regimes. So this is not politics.
Absolutely.
This is, look, we are talking about life. Do you know something, Alfred? There are quite a large number of Ghanaians. You know, this is basic. You can do the modeling yourself. It will only take death to separate them from the current challenges. Before growth, before macroeconomic development would improve and translate to benefit those ordinary Ghanaians on the street, it will take decades. And the approach we have adopted, they are not the policy objective. Alfred, we are not driven by the common good. Let's speak to ourselves honestly. It is never our goal as managers of this economy over the decades to make life less difficult for the average and ordinary Ghanaian. They are not the target. And that is why we can impose all kinds of taxes at the ports. And because we understand the impact of that on private sector competitiveness, we then go through the back door to go and ask for exemptions for companies that are pro this, pro that, and all of that, so that they can offset that burden. If it was that good for 1D, 1F, for all of them to get those tax exemptions, why not improve the general macroeconomic environment? Why not do it for all Ghanaians, all businesses? Look, Alfred, you know, tax exemptions, Ghana loses more than 8% of GDP annually through tax exemptions, unrationalized. Look, when the state is picking entrepreneurs, that is inefficiency. Look at Maslow. Look at the amount of money that has gone in there. Look at the efficiency. Look at the recovery rate. Look at the basis for allocation of facilities. That's not the best use of the state's money. Why should the state go out there and be picking entrepreneurs? Why can't we create the environment Why can't we bring interest rate down significantly by doing the right thing consistently? Why can't we design a tax system that allows businesses without any link to political parties or influential people in society to genuinely do business and create jobs? Why can't we do that? Why must I go and see a certain minister before my business can have life? Why should I belong to a certain group of people, a certain party, before my business can receive support? And then when there's a regime change, they easily become a target. Why should the state be interested in which private sector should do well and which one should not do well? Why are we building a country like that? In whose interest? Look at the businesses that rise and collapse in regimes, Alfred, in this country. One party comes and then some businesses go down. Another party comes, then some businesses rise. Why? Look at the unevenness of our growth. Look at the unevenness of our growth.
True.
Go and check the Ghana Stock Exchange data. It is also captured in the budget. You will see the volatility, the unevenness
of our growth.
You know, output volatility has implication for consumption.
Indeed.
Volatility has implication for income. Why can't we do the right thing consistently, regardless of who is in power, regardless of who will benefit from it?
From it, indeed. Very, very important point there, and Professor Godfrey Bokwe. And this trickles down to the ordinary Ghanaian and our state of affairs, what we are faced with. And I'll give you a brief moment, Lawyer Martin Pebu, because you are coming from the ordinary Ghanaian perspective and acknowledging your limited knowledge in this particular area, but you live through the day. In fact, at this point, I keep saying that you don't need to be a full-blown economist to understand the state of the economy, because you live it. So going forward, is this going to change anything for you in a minute?
Oh, no, it doesn't appear. So, Mr. Ocansey, and let me mention, it doesn't appear to, that anything is going to change. And I'm most especially interested in the promise. Remember the 2023 budget? The whole thing was that we were going to increase the LEAP beneficiaries, right? Yes. Going to increase it. Then in the review, when we say LEAP, Livelihood Empowerment program, that's for the poorest of the poor in Ghana, right? Then in the mid-year review, Furiata came and then said, oh, they will do that in the main budget. So I've been struggling to see what has been done in the main budget. I don't know if others have seen it, so that we would then be very happy that, because remember that, as I mentioned earlier on, the point is that we've created an oligarchic government where a few big contractors are the people enjoying. That's the thing. Whilst they've destroyed banks and other financial institutions, especially those tied to opposition or those that are seen to be owned by people in opposition. Remember Unibank, Sovereign Bank, and the rest, right? So having cut oxygen to opposition members, etc., what we are looking at is that, yes, your contractors will be enjoying so that they can contribute to your campaign funds, right, for the 2024 election. What about the poorest of the poor? That is what I'm still looking for. I don't seem to see it, because last year in the 2023 budget, he said the budget was based on 7 pillars. And out of the 7 pillars, my emphasis is on the poor, the marginalized, the vulnerable. In the review, he came in July and said they will continue with it in the 2024 budget. I've been scrutinizing. If there is any viewer who is learned in economics, maybe Professor Bobkin should be brought on. Has he seen it? Let's look at what comes to the poor, the LEAP project. They said they were increasing the numbers. Because, look, we will not sit down for them to continue to give big contracts to a few people so that the, the gap between the poor and the rich continues to widen. That is where the problem is.
That's
that
a
is
threat
where
to
the
national security.
Yes, excellent. Thank you for that. And you know, the last time the national security document shown how unemployment is a ticking time bomb. The national security strategy document we launched about it's already been over 2 years now, right? Almost. Yes, it shows that unemployment is a big problem. So let's look at it. U-Start is not enough. I've seen the paragraphs on U-Start, paragraph 1, 2, 6, etc. No, this one we are talking about those people we said are poor. If you tie it in with the World Bank report that about 850,000 people fell into the poverty bracket last year as a result of the worsening economic situation. This is where we should be focused. What are we doing? What are we doing to bring them out? So please, if there's anybody who knows the budget better and can show us that particular, let's bring it. At least what will happen is that if we identify it in a certain paragraph and in one of the tables, then every month we will be calling Oforiata what is happening to the poor. What is happening? How are you implemented? You see it? Right. Because we need to see it. 2023, you can't make such a promise and fail to deliver on it and say it will happen in 2024, and now I'm struggling. So let that be for the focus. Because you see, as the experts went on, debt to GDP, fiscal consolidation and the rest, you have to take your dictionary and then find each one. What is fiscal consolidation? You see how you increase revenue, cut expenditure. How many times can you Google? So for the ordinary man, what is coming to us? And that is what we are interested in.
Indeed, the most important. Indeed, I thank you very much. And Mr. Japo is going to go with, yes, the brief one, because the Finance Committee, you're starting the post-budget conference today? Yes.
Today. So we have to go to Parliament for the post-budget review. The debate starts on Monday. Where we'll get the details is when they present the bills on the taxes. And I insist that this time we ought to be very vigilant.
Okay.
Very, very vigilant.
Right.
But the truth is that things are going to get a bit tough.
It's going to get tough.
With all these tax measures coming into place, things are going to get really tough.
John Jinapo, appreciate it. I'm going to go for this quick break. When we're back, we'll get into the next issue. Right after this quick break. Stay with us.
This November, we've got a special gift for you.
Okay.
Whenever you're ready, we're treating all GoTV Super customers to the best of GoTV Super Plus. Enjoy non-stop Premier League action on a dedicated Super Sport channel.
The hottest shots in the history of the Premier League.
Delight the kids with the biggest teen icons on Disney Channel. Get starstruck with international movies and series on Studio Universal and Universal TV.
Damn.
And sample the best local shows on Africa Magic Showcase. So get ready to level up your entertainment with over 70 mind-blown channels as we give you the go from Super to Super Plus all November long. GoTV. Love it.
It's time for golden season. Time to try your luck. The rules are simple. You can place bets on any sports event. Get promotional tickets. Take part in prize draws. What's the season? It's golden season! Time to try your luck. Use the promo code to get your welcome bonus.
This advertisement has been vetted and approved by the Gaming Commission of Ghana. Bet responsibly, not for persons below 18 years. Gambling can be
Rasta. Rasta. What does Rasta really mean to the people? In today's episode of Rasta Vibration, this is what we're looking at. Rasta, what does it mean to you?
To me, Rasta means real.
Rasta to me means artistic. Rasta to me means sport.
Rasta to me means trailblazing.
That's what people like you and I do every day.
What? Where you there?
Yeah, do. Listen, Rasta, I have a bone to pick with you. Some of the things that you say on air, though, are morally, ethically, and politically.
Kids are watching.
Sit down, my youth. Respect. Rasta means the motherland, Africa. Real artistic, sporty, trailblazing African choco malt drink.
This advert is FDA approved.
My name is Ruby Bois with Kua Designs. Join us this Saturday on Ladies Circle. The
exchange rates, and just the volatile nature of doing business is making things very difficult.
For those who have money, when the economy feels like it's not stable, they don't spend.
Some businesses, they really wait till December.
Yes.
Then December, they feel like, oh, let me pump this into it and make my things very expensive.
3 things you can do with your hair. You can flip it, you can tie it up, and you can use it to tickle your love.
No. Sometimes you can't wear tight here, or loose here. Otherwise, you won't show the hourglass. Have you ever been judged because of an outfit or fashion?
Yes, I've been judged. I just remember.
The Ladies Circle shows this Saturday at 6 p.m. on TV3.
Brought to you by Yaz Sanitary Pad,
Onga, Yumvita,
MTN,
Woodin,
Cowbell, Our Milk,
DES range of products.
She's the side chick of a responsible rich man that makes me smile.
The house was full of just 3 ladies, including myself making 4. We're all ladies, young ladies. And they all posted him, happy birthday, my love, happy birthday, honey.
Once you have enough and you can take care of the others, the ladies shouldn't be greedy.
Have you understood what goes in the performance of a marriage? You don't inculcate your CEO traits into
the letters behind your name.
Is believe that the same man, whatever gave him the right to become as wealthy as he is, there's also greatness in the woman, that if she really looks inward, she can discover greatness.
Confessions shows on Saturdays at 9:30 p.m. on TV3.
Brought to you by
MTN.
Dangerous, everyone!
Get ready for the most thrilling and captivating dating experience in Ghana. Are you single, ready to mingle and looking for true love? Date Rush, the time is now.
I'm sure you have your answer.
Of course, yes.
You are expected to come dancing again, put off the rush of one, and take your date away.
Turn up the heat and find love like never before. Come screen for a chance to be a part of this season of Date Rush on 25th and 26th November in Accra at the TV3 premises, and 2nd December at Akoma FM at 9 a.m. Don't miss out on this chance to find love. Date Rush. Everyone deserves love.
Welcome back to Key Point. We're live on 3FM 92.7 and also on TV3 Ghana on Facebook, DSTV channel 279, all across the world on 3news.com, also on Kesme 107.1 in Tamale and W93.5 and why beyond. Now, a number of you sending us messages. I'll run through a few of them. This one here says, Professor Godfrey Bobkin asks why things can't be different from the status quo. I have the answer. The leadership does not know. Both parties, you say, are zero and are still employing 1966 measures. This is from Prince Owusu Yeboah. Thank you. This one here says that, Alfred, this is from Dr. Emmanuel Kujo, who is a banking consultant. He says, Alfred, banks have taken another 20 to 40% haircut on Eurobond principal. The financial sector is not recovering. You'll say, this one here says, what I want to understand, educate me on why as a company or an individual investor, I should be sharing my profit with the state when that's the state, did not contribute to the setting up and running of the business. And also George Paddy says, with Guta, says, ask Alfred Thompson to mention the 15 taxes that were taken off, you say. And Paul Kwaku of Stay Power says he lists a number of the taxes that as an importer himself, he pays about 23 of them on the items imported. Paul Kwaku, thank you very much. And this leads us to our next conversation. And this, Mr. Mike Kofi Aflu, thank you very much for your message as well, detailing the fact that the decoupling of the GFL, NHIL, COVID-19 levy, the real VAT rate is 21.9% instead of 15%. The levies and taxes at the ports are 20, you say. Thank you very much for that. And this week, we saw the CSOs in the extractive sector raise concern about this news of a company applying for a mining license to mine in the Kakum National Park, and that the Minerals Commission was swift to respond that that application was not granted. But then again, there's an ally that the CSOs are not too happy about, which has been passed into law, by the way. So I caught up with Mr. John Jinapo's brother, who is the Minister of Lands and Natural Resources, Samuel Abu Jinapo, over the week. And he says that the ministry is not going to allow any form of mining in the forest reserves. This is what he said, and I'll have a few people join us. Take a look.
So what was the intent in passing LI 12462 when you have committed to preserving forest reserves in this country?
The LI you referred to was sponsored by the Ministry of Environment, Science and Technology. And the jury is out there to determine the appropriateness or otherwise of this particular LI. And I will not make too much comment on that. But it is not correct that there is an LI which permits indiscriminate mining in forest reserves. That is not correct.
Previously, there was an LI that permitted just about 2% of forest reserves to be mined. But now that has been set aside, and this LI is in place.
I'm saying it's not correct because an LI is subsidiary legislation, and therefore is subservient to an Act of Parliament. And the Act of Parliament which regulates mining, i.e. Act 703, which is the Minerals and Mining Act 206, Act 703, and the enabling law for the Forestry Commission, the enabling law for the Environmental Protection Agency, will not and cannot allow indiscriminate mining in forest reserves, and will take precedence over an LI. But having said that, I mean, it's also important for us to face some of the realities of our legal regime when it comes to mining. It is not, mining in forest reserve is not prescribed by law. I mean, I'm not saying it, that's what the law says. Mining is permitted in forest reserve, but under strict conditions and strict environmental protocols. I'll give you an example. Newmont Ghana, which is the biggest mining company in the world, and is the biggest mining company in Ghana, mines in a forest reserve. And Newmont got their concession about 20, 30 years ago. What it is that small-scale mining is not permitted in forest reserves. That has been our biggest problem. Permitting small-scale mining in forest reserves. Small-scale mining is not permitted in forest reserves. Secondly, even when large-scale mining operations are permitted in forest reserves, they are supposed to be done within a certain strict environmental protocol. And many a times we have difficulty and challenges with that. Now, the Forest Commission has been very strict on mining activities, whether large-scale or small-scale mining activities in forest. And as I just give you an example, just about a week ago, I'm dealing with a situation where forest guards had to go and flush out illegal miners in a particular forest reserve, and it resulted in the killing of 2 Ghanaians, 2 illegal small-scale miners. Now, what we have tried to do is to cordon off the 274 or so odd forest reserves of our country. But it's also important, my friend, for us to point out that it's not all the information that is put out there which is correct, which is sacrosanct. Let me give you an example. There's been this brouhaha about Kakum Forest Reserve.
Coming to that. How did the High Street Limited even have the thought to apply for a mining or prospecting license in the Kakum National Park? How? What happened?
You know, I have had to laugh a bit, because the point I'm making is that how do I determine that Mr. Jinapo don't go and apply for a forest, a mining lease in Kakum National Park or Moli National Park? Or how do I determine that Kofi Mensah should not apply for a mining lease in Moli National Park? Or what is of significance is what does the, hold on, let me answer your question. What does the authorities make of that application? If the authorities consider the application or grant the application, then we can be up in arms, then we can be worried, then we can be scandalized. In this particular case, when this high street company made the application was rejected ab initio at the point of lodging the application at the Minerals Commission. And
so that's Samuel Abu Jinapo, who is the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, whose brother, John Jinapo, is with us in the studio. Gentlemen, yes. Okay. Also still have Martin Pebu and Alfred Thompson with us. And Engineer Dr. Ken Ashigbe is joining us on Zoom. The convener for the Media Coalition Against Illegal Mining is one of the leaders of these CSOs have come together to raise concern about the LI 2462 that I asked the minister about. Engineer Dr. Ken Ashigbe, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. Good morning, and thank you for having me. Now, so you've heard Samuel Jinapo there, that one, this LI 2462 wasn't sponsored by his ministry, and said the jury is out there, he said, on the matter. But then again, based on the fears that you have that is going to lead to unfettered access to forest reserves and destruction of forest reserves, he said that's not true. It's not going to happen. Does this answer your concerns?
Thank you very much, Alfred, and thank you to my fellow panelists, including my own brother Alfred, who is an Absunian. And thank you, and good morning to our listeners and viewers. I think, you know, in this country, one of the things that I've seen that the politicians do is that when they don't want to deal with anything, then they legislate it. And then when they legislate it, they don't do anything about it. So there are a lot of laws, you know, that we have that should govern the way mining ought to be done. And you have this LI that is passed by an entity that lacks the capacity to, and I agree with the minister, you know, the entity that completely lacks the capacity to regulate natural mining of natural resources, you know, which should actually be sitting with forestry, sitting with the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources. And we then seek to want to protect how mining should be done in the forest reserves. And then we put within that a clause that permits the president to supposedly, for national interest purposes, permit mining and drilling to happen in globally significant biodiversity spaces. And you think that if you do this, you are not creating, and no matter the point he makes about the fact that an LI is subsidiary legislation and subservient to the act, we sit in this country with all those acts that are in place. There are Akonta Mines that has one of the board members being the chairperson of the ruling government in the Ashanti region, go into the Tano Nimri Forest Reserve and, you know, mine in that place. The Minister for Lands and Natural Resources call him out. The Minerals Commission confirms it. His staff get into altercation with the people of Samaraboy. The police get involved. And so there's ample evidence that somebody has breached these supposed laws that are in place. But nothing happens to the person. We are in this country where Heritage Imperial is giving prospecting license, you know, to go into one of these forest reserves again. And they go in there, going to prospect, but with excavators, and go into that space and go and engage in mining and destroy, you know, swaths of land. And they go to court when they go prosecuting, attempting to prosecute Erastus Asari. And they say that their mining operation, they don't say prospecting operation. So they go to court, a place where, you know, legal things are going to be done. And the evidence they put there is that their mining operations are legal. But we, as the steering committee, had gone to the EPA and asked whether they had given them the permits to go and mine? And the answer is no. So there's ample evidence that even with these laws that we supposedly have in place, the forest reserves are being destroyed to the extent that it's affecting our water bodies, it's polluting our lands and all of that. So, I completely disagree with the minister when he says that, okay, this is subsidiary legislation. What we need to do, we cannot and should not put the power to be able to decide whether to mine in any of these very protected areas into the hands of anybody. We need to make sure that, because of the fact that our very existence as a country is under severe threat. Talk to the medical officers and, you will see, and I have seen, evidence of that. Children who are being born, where the parents, the mothers come from areas where these mining activities are coming, and the deformities that we're beginning to see in these areas. You have a situation where, when it comes to kidney disease, that we are not even able to pay for dialysis for. You have the age at which kidney disease is setting in, increasing for people in these communities. And the numbers are going up. And you have the situation that most of our water bodies come from these, the sources come from these forest reserves. And you have Ghana Water telling us that very soon,
as footage showing the destruction to the Tano Nimre forest. So once we've shown as a result of the
government officials.
Excellent. Confirmed. And then the CEO of the Minerals Commission has told you that, look, they had no license. The minister himself is on record to have said Akunta Mining has no license. So with this, these are the two main ingredients. There is visual evidence, pictorial evidence of mining. And then it's also confirmed they had no license. So what at all in God's name is holding the CID boss for over a year? Now, Madam Kofi, this one, I know in times past they'll be like, oh, Martin, if there's anything, come to us quietly. Let's not make noise. But it's been over a year. We can't continue like this. This is too slow. You have to prioritize it. You have to prioritize it. Akunta Mining, Chairman Wuntumi and his other partner, they can't continue working free like that. Let's have some accountability. So are we saying that the whole of the CID, the whole year, they've not been able to finish any investigations at all? What is rocket science about this case?
Right.
What is rocket science about it?
Lawyer Martin Pebble, I'm going to go for this quick break. When I come back, we'll round up this conversation. You don't keep on. Stay with us. We'll be back shortly.
A nation that honors its heroes is worth dying for. After months of rigorous contests for recognition in the regions and districts, the maiden edition of the Ghana Health Service Excellence Awards 2023, the grand finale comes off at the Grand Arena, Accra International Conference Center.
Join us celebrate and honor our hardworking health professionals. Date November 29, 2023.
Our special guest of honor, Her Excellency Mrs. Rebecca Akufo-Addo, First Lady, Republic of Ghana. From 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., there will be an exhibition, free health screening, blood donation, and public lectures. 6 p.m., arrival in style, and at 7 p.m., the main awards event begins. For sponsorship, contact 0244 125 314 or 0543 726-406. Ghana Health Service Excellence Awards, celebrating our heroes, our lifeline.
Boga Ponchina bo. Boga Ponchina ya bigo.
Mabagana. No, Mabagana. Who this guy do have here? They get them from go free.
Onyami bako shatenya.
Hey, woman, baby, cool it down, Jay.
Offer, this is Bigo Cola. Tasting here, big. This is so refreshing. You've never changed in value.
Oh no. Let's make the party begin.
Let's go.
Bigo Cola. Bigo Cola. You don't want them, they come. And they want them. Cola for the party. Bigo for your hunger.
Enjoy the big refreshing moments with Bigo Cola.
This advert is FDA approved.
feel adrift as you transition into a new stage of your life. The future seems like a blank space until you discover the passion within. The canvas of the future is yours to paint. Welcome to a world of opportunities. Heritage Christian College, offering world-class university education, training compassionate entrepreneurial leaders.
Welcome back to Key Point. Now, Engineer Kenashigbe, so beyond this, in fact, stating your displeasure about this ally, you have support from John Jinapo here, and I'm sure that he speaks with the sentiments of the minority in mind to ensure that this ally, something is done about it. So what are you going to do next?
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Before I go on to what we will do next, I just want to remind all of us, including my brother Alfred, that there are still forest reserves that are being mined. So if we are minded, let's deal with it. Heritage Imperial he has a lease in the Krobo, section of Prampra Massive Forest Reserve, which he went to with a prospecting lease and did an illegality. And even in that, there's illegality currently going on. There is a forest reserve in the Sefwi area. The name, I'm finding it difficult to mention it, is Nemensumu Mewa sections of the Sefwi Dabeso area that is currently being mined. The Pramprama Forest Reserve, that one we know is gone. Then there's the Upper Wassa Forest Reserve, in the Bekwa area, that is also currently being, mined illegally. So it is important that we deal with it. And I will urge all the political parties to as well. Let's take politics out of this. Let's see all of them coming and saying that this is a challenge. But the current government, they have the mandate. So they should forget about what anybody has said in the past and make sure that they go for it and deal with it. And that is why we should not leave this in the hands of the politicians. So the next steps we're going to do is that we are going to be sending a memo to Parliament and asking specifically for the revocation of the LI, as well as that executive instrument as well, to get it revoked. And if we take that to them and we are not seeing action, the next thing we're going to do is try and mobilize all Ghanaians. And we're going to do that using our religious body. So we're going to be calling on the Chief Imam. We're going to be calling on the Catholic Bishops' Conference, who, I don't know whether you have seen the communique that has come. Indeed. They have also mentioned it in their communique. They say we are concerned about the introduction of the environmental protection regulation, the LI, which seemingly allow mining even in globally significant biodiversity areas. And we urge government to take a critical look at this LI as a matter of urgency, amend or repeal it in order to forestall the alarming threat of ecological destruction in our country. So they have also, so we'll go to them, the Christian Council, the Pentecostal Council, and we would embark on a prayer protest. So we will pray to God to do what he has to do, but we ourselves, we will be going to Parliament, the Speaker of Parliament, we will be going to the President with petitions to push forward to ask for this, the revocation of this, to ensure that people like Akontamani, the directors, people like Heritage Imperial, people like the MC for Busumim from the former MC for Busumim from, who was caught on tape confessing to an illegality. All we have seen is that he's been relieved of his position. Right. Go and look at the Minerals and Mining Act and tell me which of the sanctions is that if you are a politically exposed person and you do something, all we do is to relieve you of your job. So we would definitely, that's going to be the other thing that we're going to do, to push to make sure that we have a legislation in place to ensure that there is a ban on mining in all
Forest Reserve.
Forest Reserve, and also that power given to the president to be able to reverse forest reserves, that ought to be taken out from the president. And if that has to be done, it has to be based on advice, from the Forestry Commission to the minister, to the president, and it should come to Parliament. And when it comes to Parliament, Parliament should know that there are representatives. So there should be a forum where those who are going to be impacted, the people who live around the forest reserve, the chiefs, all of that also
all has to be done. Engineer Dr. Ken Ashibe, really appreciate this. And George Napoy made the point that indeed, yes, they require parliamentary approval for that to be done. Thank you so much. Is a ranking on the Mines and Energy Committee of Parliament, member of the Finance Committee, John Jenapo, member of Parliament for the Yapeko constituency. Martin Bebo is private legal practitioner. The matter, the CID will still keep an eye on it. Alfred Thompson is a financial analyst and a former deputy managing director of National Investment Bank and a member of the NPP. And then also to Professor Godfrey Poppy, who joined us earlier. Thank you so much. On behalf of the rest of the team, we want to say thank you for joining us on Key Point. I am Alfred Ocansey. Have a great weekend.
This program is rated U. It contains no scene, action or dialogue that could be construed as disturbing, harmful or offensive. It is suitable for all ages.
Hello, it's another bright Saturday morning and you are just in time for Kids Arena. My name is Aureliana Amikote and like always, I'm doing this with
Anel Amtimokagwa. Indeed, it's another Saturday and we brought a change for you here today. Today, we have here with us somebody that you haven't seen in a while. We have Samara.
Hey guys, how are you? We're doing fine. What about you?
I'm great.
I can see that.
Thank you. I mean, it's been a while since you've been on the show.
It has.
Yes, so we have to hear your voice now.
Okay.
Okay, so how has your week been?
My week has been excellent. It's busy, but excellent because I'm in year 7 now, so 14 subjects.
What? 14.
But that's because one subject can be broken into 4. So English, 4 subjects, French, 4 subjects. But I also have Sabbath time, interviewing celebrities. It's amazing. How about you guys?
Okay, on my side, I've been in school, so many learning processes. And I don't know if you guys know, but I'm in the arts club. And we are trying to bring up something for a presentation. So just picking up different information from different sources.
Well, for me, it's been a normal school week. You know, I mean, we don't have that many subjects, but we have a lot in each individual subject.
How many subjects?
3 subjects.
That's very small.
Yeah, but it's like the lessons are really long, so you have to like pay attention the whole time. Yes.
Okay.
But otherwise, it's been good. You know, there's football practice, so I mean, it's going great. Yes.
All right. What is the main expectations for the show today?
Since you are here today, I'm expecting you to have your positive energy to have an effect on the whole show and for our viewers to love it.
And you?
Yeah, same. You know, since you're here, it now has to be like a really great episode. There's going to be so much energy, much education.